Hello everyone and welcome to another fabulous Tuesday. As you'll notice, Steven is not here. It's me by myself hanging out. I'm going to be doing some Flesh and Blood deck building, and for the first time I'll be doing full constructed. So we started out, we did a lot of sealed and draft, really just sealed. I didn't really draft two people. Draft is not exactly ideal. But then we switched to Blitz for a while. Crucible War came out, we were doing Blitz deck building. And Blitz, basically, you can run two of any card. The sideboard, you can sideboard armor, but you can't sideboard typical cards that you would in Constructed. So today I'm going to be doing full Constructed, which is 3 of any card. You technically build an 80 card deck. 20 of them you don't bring to the game. And you can basically sub those out depending on the matchup. A really good example of this is a character like Kano can do arcane damage. And so when you're playing against him, you might want something like the Arcanite Skullcap, which potentially has Arcane Barrier to stop his arcane damage. But if you're not playing against someone that's going to do arcane damage, it's not as useful. So you can switch out armor. You can also switch out specific card pieces. So I'm excited to dive in. I have some concepts for some of these characters that I favor, that I want to explore. I've never done this. I've played a lot of card games. I've done a lot of deck building, but I haven't built full-on constructed decks for Flesh and Blood. And obviously with the pandemic, I think a lot of people aren't really getting the chance to get out and play and really explore constructed. So I do think there's a lot of territory to consider some kind of cool and different ideas, but I'm basically looking to have some decks together. The loose plan is that between now and Monarch coming out, we'll be doing a lot more full constructed streams. So if I can get a couple of decks together today, Steven will be back next week, probably going to help him put together a deck or two and then play some games next week. And then our kind of goal is over the next 8, 12, 16 weeks, start figuring out builds for the characters that we like, and then having a pool of decks that we can play against each other and tweak and optimize and whatnot. And kind of, in typical normal life, it would be we'd have a bunch of people locally playing, you'd show up to events, you'd win or lose, and people have to adjust to the meta and what people are doing, and you learn a lot in that kind of iterative process. So we're going to mimic that here on stream with just the two of us, and today kind of kicks that off. So the classes I favor, when Steve and I basically drew straws and divided it out, I'm a big fan of Wizard and Runeblade, and I also, from the first wave of classes, I like Guardian and Ninja. So those are the 4 that I'm going to be focused on today. Probably starting with Guardian, just to, once you get into arcane damage with Runeblade and Wizard, it can get pretty crazy. So before I do that, I'll flip the camera down to the table so you can see what I'm doing. There's going to be a lot of thinking, a lot of talking. If you have questions, it's a good time to do it. When I'm looking for cards and doing stuff, I'll try to answer as many questions as I can. But I'm super excited to actually dive into the constructed element of this game. The game outside the game, we did an episode of the podcast last year about that. I just came back. Yesterday was my first stream in a couple weeks. We took a couple weeks off for the holidays. One of the things I was doing during that break was the game outside the game of collecting a collectible game. So I sorted my collection, figured out how many copies of everything I had, figured out what I had extra. I was on one of the Discords, basically going around trading with people, been mailing stuff and receiving stuff and buying some singles and whatnot. So I have mostly a playset, enough for Steven and I to build the decks that we want to build. Some of the key neutral cards that are a little harder to get, like Enlightened Strike, I got extra copies of, so we both have at least 3. But we have most of what I'm looking for, so in most cases I'll actually be able to play whatever cards I'm looking to play, which I'm excited about. But I will say, having a game that is truly collectible, like I played Destiny. It was my first collectible game in a long time. And it was like a mid-level collectible, and by that I mean like it was pretty feasible to get it all the stuff within like the first month of a set coming out, and like in a way that wasn't like crazy cost prohibitive. But there are single cards that I have in my collection at this point that are worth many times the value of probably my entire Destiny collection, even at its peak when it was like at its highest value. So the collectible nature of this game is just beyond me. What's been happening in the secondary market has been just crazy to follow. One of the channels I like to visit a lot on the Discord is the Wall Street channel. And they literally just talk about the finance side of this game. And so that's been a lot of the conversation, a lot of the content, a lot of the stuff people are talking about, which isn't really something I'm an expert at. No, I guess I'm not an expert at playing either, but I hope to become one at some point. So that kind of starts here. So if you have any major tips on constructive Flesh and Blood, if you've been playing a lot with it as we're going, or advice, or you have questions or thoughts or ideas, it's going to be a very open streaming session where I'm going to be willing to consider a lot of stuff, and I'm going to be very much looking forward to actually testing them next week. All right, so I'm going to catch up with chat real quick. You guys are talking a lot. Let's see. Bradley saying, can we get a cardboard cutout of Steven in his chair? That would actually be hilarious. Can you imagine we don't even need a cardboard cutout. We could just digitally put him there. Just have a Steven show up. That would be pretty funny. Ryan says, by yourself with hundreds of other people. Yeah, no, it's amazing. I was talking to Jonathan so John's at home right now. He's gonna make this stuff pop, the cards pop. So like when I say Kano, he's gonna, I see him, typing away, and that's gonna pop up on screen. So he's here too. You just can't hear from him. We're talking about the potential of having it where you could actually see and hear him as well at some point. Him and Bryce are typically the ones at home doing that. But we're talking about how just crazy. I mean, the fact that this is what I'm doing on a Tuesday afternoon is amazing, and very grateful to be here and excited. And I am super pumped to finally build some decks for Flesh and Blood. Northern Lights saying Happy New Year. Missed yesterday's Marvel Monday, but watch that on replay today. Happy to have you here always. Ryan says, Zach, the hair of the show. That's hilarious. Do we still have that Bravo? It's got my face on it. That's still one of the funniest. When you surprised me with that, Jonathan, someone in the community made this. And then the team here, you look at that, full bleed too. How is that not an exclusive promo already? I'm looking at you, Legend Story. Piscata saying, hey, Steven. Steve's not here. But he says, when will Welcome to Wraith come back in stock? So I believe, I saw somewhere floating around. I've been catching up on work the past 2 days because I've been out. But I believe somewhere they posted about when new waves of Welcome or Unlimited are supposed to be hitting. And so we have those products listed on the website. You can sign up for a wait list. You'll get an email as soon as those are back in stock. And we're going to be stocking those as often and regularly and as much as we can. But they're definitely playing catch up to demand at this point. Z Master saying, Wall Street Gang represent. Glad to have you here. I'm a fab guy. Said, yeah, I just priced my collection over the weekend. It's crazy where things have gone. Yeah, so I had this just kind of cardboard box that I was, because we had a bunch of Blitz decks built. So I was basically deconstructing all the Blitz decks and sorting all my cards into binders so that I could understand what we have. And as I was doing it and kind of figuring out what I needed to have a play set for us to build decks and whatnot, I started recognizing, based at current market prices, when you look at various websites that sell singles or eBay sold transactions or whatever, just how valuable the cards even I own are. And I don't have in the two bigs, which is Heart of Faendal or Eye of Ophidia Cold Foil. First edition of those, just crazy prices. But yeah, I mean, it actually made me, I had all of my, they're here in the stack right here. It's like my Cold Foil armor and weapons and the legendary like equipment and stuff, all in a single stack in that box. And it was just kind of almost, it felt weird. It was like uncomfortable because it was like these have value and they're worth so many thousands of dollars, which is kind of weird. Like it wasn't that long ago that we were selling first edition boxes for $70-$80 for a while. Like that was not very long ago. So it's really pretty crazy. Northern Light saying, yeah, Steven pop-up card would be nice. That would be funny. James saying, have you thought about bringing in guest players each week? The stream kind of happened in response to the pandemic. We were streaming on Mondays before, and we used to on the podcast we do weekly, we used to live stream, not live stream, we used to do videos of it as well. And when we did that, we had 3 people actually, and we eventually come down to 2. And really it's just a matter of like efficiency, and then also just like scheduling. It's way harder to schedule consistently the same 3 people. Right now we're in a pandemic situation, so most people are working from home. It would be a lot easier to bring in a guest when everyone's just at the office, and like we can kind of rotate in, and you can see who all on staff plays what games, and it'd be nice. But we're still operating kind of in a pandemic mode, so it is possible we get to that at some point. We've also had guests on for like the podcast that we do digitally, but there's just something about being in the Flesh and Blood with people when you're playing that is a very different atmosphere. So it's possible once we, exit the pandemic, you would see different and more faces and even guests from maybe publishers and whatnot, but it'll be a while before that's happening. Van saying, great discussion on FFG and other stuff in general on Discord channel today. Van, are you talking about our Discord? I haven't checked in on that today. Jim says that Bravo looks just like you. That's funny. Yoda's Hut, my wife walked by me when I was watching Marvel Monday yesterday, and she said that I look like Kevin Smith. I have heard that before. I don't necessarily agree or disagree. I'm neutral on my stance on whether or not that's true. Parker Frederickson, Happy New Year, Zach. I'm so excited to see you deck building. I just bought into this game about 2 weeks ago and now have a playset of everything minus some supers and expensive cards, but I'm ready. Wow. Did you buy a playset? Was it all unlimited? Did you buy sealed product or did you go singles? I'm curious. I know right now it's tough because product is hard to come by to get into the game. So I'm curious how people are getting in at this point. Obsidian says that card. I assume they're talking about the card with my face on it. It's been a minute. I'm trying to catch up the chat. You guys are being very interactive, which is super, super nice. How did you had one earlier that was like full bleed? What was that about? Do you have multiple iterations? This is that's so funny. Anyways, Ryan Roper says, I wish I would have bought more than a case of first edition boxes from TC. Yeah, I mean, the first edition of Welcome to Wraith is currently at like $4 or $5+ grand. So taking $80 to $100 and turning it into $5 grand is good math, no matter where you're at. So it's hard. I get it. I conceptually get what's happened and the collectability and all this kind of stuff, but like to truly comprehend and fathom it is pretty crazy. Ryan saying, if you don't care about collecting, is there merit in selling first editions and replacing them with unlimited versions? I mean, it really, if you had asked me, it's a tough answer. If you'd asked me 3 months ago, hey, Unlimited's coming out, I have these cold foils, should I go ahead and sell them while I can and just buy the unlimited versions? I don't know what I would have said, but I probably would have said, well, if you don't really care about collecting, that seems fine. You can make your money back, make some extra money, buy the card anyway later, and you're off to the races. But I would have been dead wrong, right? Because you look at a card like, I mean, it's this kind of stuff, right? It'll drive you crazy. So you kind of just have to make your decision and not worry about it. But we had one of the full art Twinning Blades on the website as a single for a while. And I think it was like $250. So it's the card on screen, but it was like an alternate full art version that's like more rare. And so then they announced that they weren't necessarily going to print unlimited Crucible of War. So single prices for Crucible of War started going up. People started realizing kind of how rare that full art card was. But then our copy sold immediately. But now on the secondary market, it's $1,100, $1,200, $1,300. And that was after that set had been out for months. I mean, that card just sat there. So it's very volatile. It has a kind of a negative connotation. It's not really volatile because it's been going constantly up. But there have been lots of spikes all of a sudden, not randomly, but like it'll just hit and all of a sudden week after week. I've seen people posting they'll buy a single and it takes a couple weeks for it to get to them. And by the time they get it, it's doubled or tripled in value. So when it comes to these first edition cold foils, it really comes down to this. You could sell them right now. Like, I'm looking, I have these Storm Striders here, which is a legendary from the first set. And I have them cold foil. You can buy the unlimited rainbow foil version of this card, a couple $100. And then the cold foil is $1,400, $1,500 right now. So technically, I mean, I could sell this, make $1,400, $1,500, buy the same card for $200 or $300, not have any playability difference, and just have money sitting there, right? But the real question mark is, what's the price of this going to be in 6 months, right? What's the price of this going to be in 10 years? I look at something like, when I was a kid, played the Pokemon TCG. That's where all these card games started for me. And of course, if you say Pokemon TCG, I was around when the base set was happening. I didn't catch first edition, but like I got a starter that Christmas after it came out of non-first edition cards. And growing up, I played Pokemon Red, not Blue. Charizard was my starter. Charmander was my starting Pokemon. Charizard was my favorite Pokemon from the original 150. So he was the chase card too. That was definitely the chase card at the time. And I remember it was a good year. I would buy packs of that set trying to get that card, and I finally got that card. And it was actually in a pack that my uncle got me for my birthday, and that's a whole story. But it was I was so excited to get that card, and I still have that card. But the reality is, at some point, I could have sold that card for hundreds of dollars. But now it's actually worth a lot more. So if you look at a really good comparable, this is Magic. A lot of these rare cards have been compared to like some of the more expensive Magic cards. So if Flesh and Blood is successful, and currently all signs are pretty reinforcing that pretty strongly. But if it's super successful and it's around in 20 years, those cold foils potentially are going to be worth significantly more than they are now. So if you don't care about collecting, you can absolutely 100% get more money out now than you paid to get in, and probably have the full experience of playing the game. So if you don't want to make that bet that it's still going to be around in 20 years and worth something, or even in a year, right? If this game, we've been in a pandemic, product has been hard to get, so a lot of people aren't able to get in right now. Monarch is supposed to be a really important set for this game. It's the next set that's coming out. And so the recognition is, if the world kind of going back to normal, crossing my fingers on that one, plus Monarch coming out and people having access to supply, if this game just gets more popular, the value of those cards is set to go immediately up. So there's a lot of speculation there. I'm not giving investment advice. I'll just put that out there. So I don't know what to do. I'm in the same boat, right? I have cards that you're looking at it and it's like, I mean, the Storm Strider is a great example. I have the legendary equipment for most of them in cold foil, and it's like, I could just pull money out and have the exact same cards. And there's, you know, I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is, and I don't think anyone does, which is part of the game outside the game, I guess. RJ saying, can you please give a shout out to my friend Kyle Gant. Kyle, a shout out to you. Benjamin, what are we building today? I'm going to start with Guardian. High interest in Runeblade and Wizard as well, and then if I have time, Ninja at the end. Parker saying, to answer my question from earlier, I got some sealed product and bought a lot of singles after that to finish off most of the rares and commons, then have one and two of most super rares and some majestics. Nice. Jared saying, I bought Crucible thinking it was unlimited just before they announced they weren't making more. I debated selling the 2 boxes, but since I'm getting to play, I kept it and opened. Ryan says unlimited is fine for playing. Parker saying it was tough to find stuff, but bought all unlimited when it was still in stock for 20% off. Yep. If you can find those boxes, that's obviously a great way to get in. Ryan Roper saying, I still have 2 boxes of Arcane Rising and Crucible sealed, just seeing where it goes. Yeah, I mean, who knows? Those box prices are going crazy. Ryan Roper, I managed to buy all of TC's regular art foil twinning blades. Yeah, Ryan, were you also the one that grabbed those Storm Striders? I think we sold Storm Striders for like 80 or 90 bucks. Like when we had those in stock on our website, which is just crazy to me. Ryan Scott says, my bro was ticked beyond whenever they announced the print runs. He opened 5 boxes 2 days before they announced. Yep, that's just bad beats. Patrick, oh no. He says he sold his Charizard for $5 at a yard sale. Oh no. We did a fun little story. We did a throwback stream to Pokemon like a year and a half ago. We launched a subscription for Pokemon where you can sign up, just like Flesh and Blood. Sign up to automatically receive stuff. You don't pay until a couple weeks before it comes out, kind of a thing. And so we were going to stream it, and I basically bought a bunch of singles to build old decks on top of the stuff I already had. And they did a set called, I think it was Evolutions, which was a lot of the original art and cards from the first couple of sets, but kind of done in more modern stat lines because the stats have grown over time. So I bought some cards and some Charizards at the time. And then the past year or two, Pokemon secondary market has gone crazier than ever before. And so I just happened to, like, there were cards I bought that for that stream that I'm not using or attached to anymore that had increased in value a lot. And one of them was Charizard, but it wasn't even the OG Charizard, which was crazy to me. Oh, Yogi Bear, this is painful. Sold all of his Pokemon Gen 1 stuff 5 years ago for 50 bucks. Had Charizard, Blastoise, Mewtwo movie cards, etc. in it. Yep, that's just an unfortunate decision. All right, I'm going to try to just scroll down and make sure there's no question marks. Van saying, food for thought, a sealed box of original Pokemon set sells for like $35,000. This is what's crazy. When we were going to do the throwback stream, I almost bought a box of base set Pokemon. And it was thousands of dollars at the time, not $35,000. In retrospect, I should have and just sat on the box, but who could have possibly known? JK Reeves saying, I'm really hoping they do some kind of reprint for Crucible. I was really bummed when Bloodchief Skeleton went from $10 to $80 overnight. Yeah, I mean, they're keeping their eye on it. I have faith in Legend Story. So far, they've made a lot of really good decisions. When we had James on the podcast, he had all the right answers at every turn. So I assume most of their power, their printing power is going to Monarch, because that's like kind of the next base set, draft, sealed. We'll see what it ends up looking like. But assuming that's the case, I understand why they wouldn't necessarily want to print Crucible at this point. It was very much a kind of like boost set, which is like, it's not built for sealed and draft. It expands all the classes, that kind of a thing. So like priority-wise, would you rather print Unlimited Crucible or more Welcome to Wraith, Arcane Rising, Monarch? I think they're going to lean into that, and then we'll see what the singles price is. And they also have the option to reprint some of this stuff. We saw Faendale Spring Tunic in the first set, and then also printed as a non-foil in Crucible. So, you know, a lot the legendaries are Tunic, which you can get in Unlimited of Welcome to Wraith, and also in Crucible. There's Shiana, who's a character that's only playable in Blitz at this point, and really specifically for multiplayer. And then there's the Arknight Shard, which is a Fabled, but it's also specific to a single character and class. So everything else is just majestic and otherwise. And so I definitely understand why they might not want to print that. But I have a suspicion, if I had to bet on whether or not they do, I think we'll either see reprints of the important cards sooner than later, or they'll end up printing Unlimited, but they have to get, like, you have to print as much Monarch as you can reasonably expect to print and move, because if we, you know, there's a point, Destiny had a similar thing where it's like, if you can consistently not get any product, eventually the frustration to players is going to outweigh the excitement of actually getting it. So it's a careful balance. Obsidian saying, I've been completing playsets for Warrior Ninja, Mech, and Wizard. My last Crucible single just came in yesterday. I started going in on singles the first week of November. That was a good week to get in. Adventure Code Gaming saying, just got here ready to see some constructed. Well, stay tuned. It's going to happen. Once I get caught up to chat, I'm going to dive in. Let's see. Yotes saying, do you feel there will be any Monarch available after pre-orders, or will it be instant sellout? I mean, we're sold out of subscriptions currently. And if you want to get on that, I would get on the wait list. It's quite possible we'll have more slots opening up. But I think that this product's going to go fast. I also think that there's a lot of people, you see what's happening, right? The Welcome to Wraith boxes went from $80 to $5,000. That's a serious amount of growth and money involved there. So I won't be surprised if a decent number of boxes get bought to be held onto for Monarch, which means the actual supply of boxes and singles and whatnot into the market, who knows how much bigger the print run is going to be for Monarch, but I have to assume that the amount of open product won't be significantly larger, if it's larger at all. And I don't know. I literally, if you'd asked me to predict what was going to happen next at any point in the past 4 months, outside of the fact that, you know, we started supporting the game and creating content around it, okay, I expect more people to want to play. Same thing with Channel Fireball, same thing with TCG Player picking it up officially. Same thing with just like naturally, organically, this game is really good. So people start playing and it spreads. So I would have predicted growth, but I would never have predicted pretty much the scale of growth of anything that's happened with this game. So what's going to happen with Monarch? I have no idea. I really have no, I mean, I have a concept. I think it's going to, demand is going to be high. Whether or not they can print that much, I don't know. All right, finally got to the bottom, I think. John Mark Escobar saying, hey guys, just want to let you know how helpful your podcasts have been to me when considering getting into this industry as a creator. You guys are awesome. Hey, really glad to hear. What do you mean by creator? What are you creating? Mike Francis, good point, says so they should print a lot, but meter out the distribution and not flood the market at the outset, because that's also a problem. Too much product means that booster boxes get devalued, singles prices get devalued, and then, like right now, part of what makes it so obvious to buy Monarch is like you see what's happening with the value of the cards that are already out, and it's like it's kind of a no-brainer to buy a certain amount to buy and open and just do your thing with, right? So it's a fine line. A collectible game. It balancing that is the art of creating a collectible game that's successful. Thomas says, hey, I know this is way too soon to ask, but could you give me a hint at what would be the first throwback game of the year whenever Steven comes back? It's on the schedule. We have an internal schedule. I don't recall what it is offhand, but I'll look today, and if you're back on a stream in the future this week, I might reveal it to you. Ganchi's saying, can't wait to flip the TC promos and insert evil laughter. I'm excited to be able to share those at some point. Something gaming says, so bummed that I didn't think that Crucible would scale so fast. Even Alpha were rising super fast. Yeah. Obsidian, yeah, Middle Earth CG is this Thursday, but he was specifically asking, they were asking what was going to be when Steven was back next week. Patrick, I love seeing they said ordered a Crokinole board on Monday, by the way. We streamed our holiday favorites, and Crokinole was one of them. It's a great game. Enjoy. Keyday saying, I was able to snag some unlimited boxes, but I'm super worried about the availability of Monarch. Hopefully there's enough to go around. Yeah, I mean, you know, what's interesting about that too, right, is August is when Crucible came out, and it sold out immediately. Like it was gone as soon as it showed up. But we had subscription spots open from August through December where you can sign up and know you're going to get product and promos and whatnot. But I think now it has finally truly unquestionably clicked for people. This game is very in demand, is very successful. You see more and more people talking about it in kind of the various crevices of the industry. At this point, cat's out of the bag. And so I think, you know, the easy, in quotes, money of like buy boxes and flip them for 10, 20, 30 times is unlikely. But I still think Monarch's going to be incredible value because I'm not sure there's enough capacity to print to actually satiate demand fully. But hopefully, Legend Story has a strong commitment to the local store. And I think that's a very smart thing to do because that's a critical part of these communities. And so a lot of the product's going to flow through local stores. And so it's not just going to be, you know, all of the supply gets consumed online, right? Or on pre-orders and stuff. So I think for people that really want to find it, you will, but it's going to be hot. I expect it to sell out pretty quickly, regardless of how much they print. I think it will sell through in the first month, almost regardless of the number they print. Still Java saying, is there a Discord channel or something he is reading the chat from? So we're streaming to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch at the same time. Twitch has the highest video quality. YouTube usually has the most activity when it comes to chat. So that's where a lot of these I'm reading from. Obsidian, he wants to see Steven at the table. I get it. Valentino, the Scar for a Scar promo looks amazing. It sure does. I think we can pop that if you haven't seen it. It's a beautiful card. I also love Ira, and it's one of my favorite cards in general. Very amazing to have that as our exclusive with Crucible when it came out. All right, I'm just going to scroll down. John, answering my question, says, I'm a first-time creator and really want to start with creating a TCG, but learning how much it takes to be successful, I realized it might be too much as a start. Yeah, I think to have a successful trading card game, that's what's so magical about Flesh and Blood doing what they're doing. I think you need a lot of experience. I think you need to have a really incredible game, incredible art, incredible quality. I think you have to fundamentally understand collectability. I think the timing has to be right. I think what's going on in Magic, combined with the pandemic, a lot of people, a lot more time, was kind of stacked in their favor, right? I think the way it dominoed out was really healthy for the game. And so there's a reason there's the big three. Now I'm going to say the big four with Flesh and Blood involved. But there's a reason that very few games make it into that pantheon. Even if you look at someone like Wizards, who is the creator of the category with Magic and still going as the leader in it, hasn't been able to land a second game. With all their expertise and all their experience and all their knowledge and all their capacity and bandwidth and resources, they can't do it again. So it's a very tough thing to get into. Rafflecopter saying, what are the odds that your Monarch pre-order list opens back up? I would say the odds are good. When it opens up, I don't know. We're still working out some details there, but I think we're going to have some more. I do not expect them to last very long, if I'm being honest with you. So how we handle that, I mean, this is beyond anything we've ever seen. So we're just working through a lot of things to make sure everything's good to go. Alice Scala saying, you actually consider it to be the big four? I mean, I want it to, but I don't know if it's there yet. So assuming they actually put out 3 sets a year consistently, and just what I'm expecting, I think the only reason they're not in the lists that are, like ICV2, I don't think is super accurate, is because they've only released 1 set since, they released in August, and that was it between then and I think like March when the pandemic hit. So I think when Monarch comes out, that's immediately going to put them in the conversation. And as long as they stay consistent and the quality of the sets are good and demand stays similar or continues to grow, I think we're at the point where it's a little early, but I don't know that there's going to be a game bigger than them that's not in the big 3, if that makes sense. Jim Volin saying, I'm looking forward to Zach and Steven driving my Monarch boxes out to me in April. Yeah, did we get him to commit to anything last time? He was being kind of squirrely. Rafflecopter saying, I'm on the wait list and checking daily. I hope it does. Yeah. I wish I had a better answer for you, or could tell you it was going to be more accurate. But it's just crazy right now. So we're trying to work through it all. Valentina saying, I wonder what Legend Story will do with live events. I'm excited for them to reveal. James seemed very excited on the podcast about their organized play plan. Obviously, the world going back to normal at the right time, especially the States, and then Europe after that, can be critical for this game. We'll see when that happens, but I'm hopeful that 2021 is the year we can get back to normal. Stores can really be open, events can be happening. And I think they're ready to support it, right? And that's what I mean, like kind of the delay and taking the break on the organized play may have been a net positive, where now it's like a little more serious. There's a lot more people involved, and they know they have a lot more success happening, right, than they did a year ago. And so they can invest appropriately into their organized play program. So I'm super pumped to see what they do. Jim saying, yeah, Steven was a little square last time. All right, I'm going to take my mic off and go hit the button so that I can get the top-down view. We're going to get into some deck building. I'm going to be excited to continue answering questions. It doesn't have to be Flesh and Blood related, but that's really why we're here. So if you do have questions or thoughts or ideas, please share them. I will continue interacting with chat, and we'll just have a laid-back deck building session. But I'm going to go hit a button. Boom. John Mark saying, really appreciate your time and insight. For sure, I 100% agree. I'm investing in the Monarch boxes myself, excited for the future of Flesh and Blood, and excited for you guys as well. Cheers, and thanks again. Happy to have you here, John. If you have any questions, please let us know. Technical, who makes this game? What were the top TCGs you were speaking about? And also, when did this game come out? So this game came out late 2019, I believe. I wasn't around at the time. We got some sample product in like January, February. We did an early stream to check it out, started having conversations, the rest is history. The maker of this game is Legend Story Studios. The top TCGs are Pokemon, Magic, and Yu-Gi-Oh! The big 3 is typically what they're called. That makes over half of the revenue in tabletop gaming in general, and that doesn't count mass market, which all of those games are in the mass market, Walmart, Target, etc. So those are the big 3, and I think I answered all your questions. Gunchi saying, Zach, did you see the first Broken Ashes deck? I didn't, but no, I remember hearing about that. That was like the last thing we talked about on stream. Someone was asking about some combo they pulled off. But thankfully, Organized Play can fix that right up. Jared saying, I'm so happy I subscribed to Flesh and Blood from y'all when I found out about it. Well, we appreciate you being here and being a subscriber. That's what makes it possible for me to build decks on stream on a Tuesday afternoon. And it's amazing. So shout out to all of our subscribers for hopping in and supporting us and buying their product from us. Super grateful to have your support. Absolutely. Michael saying, you guys are great. Keep it up. Hey, I'm reading comments not having read them. And when I read compliments, I feel like mildly I don't want, it's not embarrassed. There's a better word for it. Anyways, just be aware. Also, sometimes I catch myself mid-comment realizing I shouldn't read the rest of the comment. So don't say anything overly inappropriate, because that's going to be even worse. Jared saying Zach's living the, or at least my dream. No, it's unreal that this is what's happening right now. So very excited to be here and excited to have the opportunity to support such a great publisher and game, and hopefully such a great community once this game can actually come back online. Obsidian, everyone, make Zach self-conscious with compliments. Self-conscious is the right word. I'm not embarrassed by it, but it's like, it's a different situation. Ryan, that's a good question. What are you most hopeful for in Monarch? I'm just excited. The way they talk about it, they talk a big game, right? A big game about Monarch. So if it's half as good as they make me feel like it's going to be, it's going to be amazing. I'm just excited to see, I'm really excited to see the lore expanded and to continue diving into the universe and seeing how it develops. They have the lore book, which I was fortunate enough to get a copy in that early demo material they sent us. There's actually one up here too. But that thing, I don't know. You don't really realize. I play card games, so a lot of card games, the lore was disconnected in a way. Like early on, played Pokemon. So you play the game, you read you get the collector books that talk about all the Pokemon and stuff. But I didn't realize how much I liked the lore of the universes I was into. Like most of the games I've played are Lord of the Rings or Star Wars, honestly. Sometimes like Dragon Ball Z or whatever the game was. And so I'm typically playing games I'm really into the lore about. And so sometimes you have games come out that you play that, like Warhammer Champions was a good one. I think that was an incredible card game, very slick app. But like Warhammer's not a universe I've ever really been super drawn to. And so having a game like this where we played the game, it's like, hey, that's a really good system. Like I really enjoyed that game. And then it was like I had a 200-page hardback book that just has story and art and like concept art of armor and different weapons that each culture and class uses and where they come from and what the map looks like, what the stakes are. That was really important to me. I'm hopeful they put out, I think they're going to be putting out more lore books, and I think they're going to be more widely available than the initial batch of them. I think that is the kind of thing that can sell so many people on the universe and the IP. And it's so rare that you get such a strong sense of an IP out of an independent game like this in a new universe. So I'm hopeful we get more lore, honestly, both in the cards themselves and then also hopefully we get a book about all this stuff. Matt saying, is it possible to get into this game without spending a ton of money? Yes. So if you can, try to hunt down 2 or 3 boxes of Unlimited of either Arcane Rising or Welcome to Wraith, or both. And that is enough to do draft and sealed and have enough of a collection to build decks. You should be able to find those in the next 2 to 4 months at reasonable rates. And by reasonable, I mean $80 to $120 per box. And that's going to be the best way to get in. And if you can't find that, just wait. Wait until you can. Thomas saying, Zach, what's your favorite class? So that's a good question. I think it's either Wizard or Runeblade, but my favorite character so far is Bravo. So like Guardian as a concept is fine, but like, defense and protection is not typically my playstyle. I like Bravo because he just swings a giant hammer and he makes a show of it. And he's like a mix between like Captain Hook and Gaston from Beauty and the Beast. And I just love that concept. So I really like Bravo, but I think ultimately class-wise, I'll be drawn to Wizard and Runeblade before it's all said and done. Mike saying, I was impressed with how well we were able to build playable blitz decks from all 4 classes from 1 box of Welcome to Wraith. Absolutely. I sent decks to a couple friends out of 4 boxes, and I was able to build 3 decks for each class pretty reasonably out of that. All right, let's take a look at this. Bravo, Showstopper. The man, the myth, the legend. We're going to start here. He'll also pop up on screen. So he's got the standard 4 intellect bottom left. If you're unfamiliar, that's your hand size. So you draw that at the end of each of your turns, you draw back up to that. He's also got 40 life on the bottom right. That's pretty standard. Kano, the wizard, only has 30, so he's got less for good reason. But Bravo's got 40, which is normal, and the normal card draw size. And he's got this ability. He can pay 2 until the end of the round. Your attack action cards that cost you 3 or greater resources gain dominate and go again. So this ability has go again, but he gives your attacks that cost 3 or more dominate, which dominate means your opponent can only block from hand with a single card. So they even attack or defense reactions like Sink Below, if they've already blocked with a card from their hand, they can't react in from their hand. They could react in from their arsenal. So if you had to Sink Below in your arsenal, you could react in to the stack as well as one card from hand. But what that ends up looking like, like one of these, one of his cards, one of the Guardian cards is Cranial Crush. And so this is a 6-cost card on the top right. So it costs a lot. It costs more than 3. So if you use this ability plus play this card, it's got 8 damage on the bottom left, which means it's an 8 damage attack your opponent can only block with a single card. Now, there are some cards, I think like Unmovable Red is an example of one. Let's see, I'm going to let that pop and see. It's a defense reaction, and it defends for a lot. I think it's a 7 or something, which we'll get to in a minute. So technically, if they have these big blocky cards, they can block most of the damage from these kind of attacks. But Bravo's thing is that he can pay 2 to basically make sure a certain amount of damage gets through. And there's ways around it, right? They could put a Sink Below in their arsenal. They can block from hand with a 3 or a 4 and block for 4, 5, 6, 7. But it's likely you're going to get some damage in. And when we were playing Blitz, if we go to Young Bravo, you can see younger version of the art, which is fun. Same hand size, half the life. And he has the same ability. So at 20 health, getting 3 or 4 damage attacks through pretty regularly is pretty reasonable. Like you're eventually going to get enough damage in that you can win the game. So when we're playing Blitz, and this is why it's kind of interesting to do full constructed, is it's a very different game. At 40 health, you can take a 10 damage attack and not just be losing the game. If you take 10 damage randomly in Blitz, that's half your health. That might be enough to get you to just lose. So what that means is you can actually play a little more of a long game, right? You can cede a little more tempo and take a little more damage to build something even crazier. So all my early decks for Bravo, because it was Blitz, focused on making sure I could pay 2 and swing with a big attack. And I think that's fine. I think that's a fine way to play Bravo and probably is pretty reasonable. But I'm going to get out my Guardian binder and I'm going to show you the card that I want to build around today. That's not it. All right. So I have my binder of Guardian cards here. The card I wrote this card off at first. Side note. I thought it was bad. I just thought it was strictly bad. But again, I was in a Blitz framework. Let's pull up Red Towering Titan. And don't laugh me out of the room. I'm going to ask some questions real quick. MJ, is there any official digital way to play this game? It's so expensive in real life. TTS has a really great plugin. Thank you, Valentino, on the compliment on the binders. So Red Towering Titan, it's a 9-cost card. It's a Guardian action or aura, so it comes into play and it destroys itself at the beginning of the next turn. At the beginning of your action phase, destroy Towering Titan. The next Guardian attack action you play this turn gains plus 10 attack. So this is a different approach to Bravo for me, which is his ability makes me want to just literally, like, if we look through some of these cards, right? It's all of the 3 and 4 cost attacks that do the most amount of damage. So Red Buckling Blow, 4 cost, 8 damage. If it deals 4 or more damage to a hero, you can put a -1 armor counter on a piece of armor. And so if you have 2 blues in your hand, you can pay 4 for Buckling Blow and 2 for Bravo's ability, which means you have an 8 damage attack with Dominate coming in. And if they can't block for at least 5 with 1 card from hand, you're going to put a -1 armor counter on something. And I think this is fine. That's a totally fine way to play Bravo. But the flip side, which is what I'm interested in exploring, is how big of an attack can I actually send through? Because this is Guardian, after all, right? So Guardian actually has a decent number of defense reactions, and they have auras that do really crazy amount of blocking. So what I want to look to do is like, can I play, because I'm looking at Towering Titan, right? And we'll go ahead and pull up Blue Towering Titan. So it's a 9-cost card as well, and it adds +8 instead of +10. And the difference between +8 and +10 is not super significant. Once you're at +8 on an attack that's probably already a 7 or an 8, I mean, we're at 15, 16. So the difference between 16 and 18, probably not super significant. So there's not a huge difference between these two cards in my mind in terms of the value they're offering. But to play a 9, you either have to have extra resources banked from like energy potions, maybe a Faendal Spring Tunic giving you 1 bonus resource. Because like a 9 is typically 3 blues. So you'd have to have this card in hand plus 3 blues, or this card in arsenal plus 3 blues, or some other resources coming from another source. So to actually make Towering Titan work, I think my concept is going to be leaning heavy into blues. Like the vast majority of my cards are going to be blue. I'm probably going to run an energy potion to give me some extra resources. And I basically want to boost my attacks as much as I can. And then on the turns I'm not boosting, I'm building. So I can spend 2 or 3 cards blocking to not take damage. And then on my turn, I'll just play a potion, right? Or I'll play a defensive aura. And I'll just block and build and block and build until I can swing 20 at my opponent with Dominate. Because even if they block for 8 or 9, they're going to take 10 or 11. So I only need to do that a certain number of times before they just can't keep up. So that's concept number 1, which means a lot of blues. It means the attacks don't matter as much anymore, right? Like the which attacks they are, because used to, I would look at a card, let me find a really good example, like Red Cartilage Crush. If it deals, or not red, red's fine. It's a 7 attack, right? If it deals 4 or more damage, their first action during the next turn costs an additional resource to play. So if they're only blocking with 1 card, a lot of cards only block for 3, they would take 4 damage from this card. But the problem is, if they have a 4, they're going to block this card, right? If you're only at a 7, and they're going to prevent that, and they're going to take the 3 damage and not get the negative effect. But if you have a floating like +8 sitting around, even the blue Cartilage Crush, which is a 5, becomes a 13, and it's unlikely they're not going to actually suffer this consequence. So I'm going to be playing with a lot of the blues in this iteration of the deck. Now I do want to look at a couple other interesting cards here. An example is like blue Emerging Dominance. So this is a 2-cost as an aura, so it lasts till the next round. And it gives +1 and Dominate. So the red version of this card is +3 and Dominate, which is, I think is a good card. But the reality is that this is the ability to pay 2 this turn to basically get Bravo's ability next turn. And that lets you do some interesting stuff, right? Like I think that lets you, this is kind of a build card that fits the same vein. So there's another one, oh here it is. This is one of my favorites. This is a crazy card, and I wrote this one off early too. Red Stonewall Confidence. So it's a 2-cost aura. It has go again, so you can play it and do something else. And while it is in the arena, cards that you control that cost 3 or greater get +4 while defending. So even the blue one, the blue Stonewall Confidence, adds +2. So most of these cards are 3 defense. All of a sudden, playing this card means that you're blocking every single card is a 5, which is really pretty crazy. So this is actually an incredible card. I may end up playing blue and like yellow of this, because if you have 5 or 6 turns a game where you're at +2 or +3 on all your cards, that's going to let you block with like a single card for any big attacks. It won't matter. And this is where the sideboard is going to come in, because like Stonewall Confidence is not the kind of card I would put in my deck against Ninja, for example. They're going to be doing a lot of little hits. But if I'm playing against a big damage deck, I would play these. And also, I wouldn't put these in against like a Runeblade or a Wizard. So there's going to be some flex slots there. But I'm going to go ahead and get Towering Titan out. And I'm going to grab 3 blues, because I think that's definitely happening. And I'm going to go ahead and pull out 3 yellows, because that might happen. I'm just going to stack them like this so we can see. And that's kind of going to be the central tenet of this deck. I'm also going to go ahead, I have these set aside because they were just sleeved in my previous deck, but it's the Cranial Crush. So this fits the deck for several reasons. I'll put attacks on this side, I guess. We'll put Bravo somewhere. Let's put him right there. So Towering Titan, let's go ahead and start laying it. Cranial Crush is a blue attack, fits the requisite, provides the resources, but it's also an 8. So blues at a high stat are going to be super valuable. I'm going to go back to the beginning and see what we're dealing with here. So I have it sorted where it's like I have my standard class cards here, and then I have my like rarer cards, and then after that it's alphabetical by card type. So I'm just going to look at some of these more rare cards. And actually, before I do that, it's worth highlighting a few options. So the weapons he can play are Anothos, which is his hammer. And it's a 3-cost attack. If you have 2 or more cards in your pitch, which means you generate a resource for them, they cost 3 or greater, Anothos gains +2. So it's a 6 damage attack, which is nice, especially on the turns where you had to defend. So like if you just have 3 resources floating, this is a fine 4 damage attack. Or if you like play the aura I was saying that has Go Again. Let me find it. Stonewall Confidence or even Blessing of Deliverance. You can play it. You can also swing with this card, and you have the requisites, so you're swinging for 6, which is a lot to do with just a standard weapon. There's also the Sledge of Anvilheim, which is a straight up 6, but it costs 4. So a lot of times it's going to take you at least 2 cards to be able to swing with this hammer. So most of the time, Anothos does the same thing, except for sometimes you can still just swing for 4 with 3. So I lean towards Anothos, but I think there's valid cases for why you might play the Sledge. A couple other cards of note. We have Tectonic Plating here. Once per turn, you can spend a resource to create a Seismic Surge Aura token. And it has Go Again, so I'm going to go ahead and get this out while we're here. Seismic Surge, at the beginning of your action phase, destroy it. Then the next Guardian attack action card you play this turn costs 1 less to play. So the Tectonic Plating basically lets you float a resource from this turn to next turn, if you're going to swing, which is good. It's got Go Again. So Bravo can basically have these really interesting build turns where you could like play an aura with Go Again, use one of these platings with Go Again, and swing with a hammer potentially, depending on your resource curve and what's going on. Jared says, just dropping the Tectonic Plating like we all got that. LMAO. Oh, Ryan, that's a good point. My friend, that is interesting. He says, worth noting, Sledge of Anvilheim, you can use multiple times in a single turn. So this is actually really interesting. If I'm playing, I'm going to get a copy out, just because. Because if I'm playing a ton of blues, right, 8 resources is not going to be crazy to come by. 2 blues plus a potion, an energy potion, means I could swing with the anvil twice. If I end up playing Time Snap potions, I have a really natural way to get a double action turn. So sometimes I might just have 2 6s to swing at my opponent, which is going to be something they're just going to have to deal with. So it's at least in the conversation, and for that reason, depending on the matchup, right, that might end up in your 20-card sideboard. So I'm going to get a lot of cards out that I may not end up using here, but that's fine, because we will eventually need a sideboard. Z-Masters, how do you get Go Again? Time Snap is a great option. So you spend it, you get 2 actions, swing with a hammer, and, you know, call it a day. Whereas Anothos is specifically limited to once per turn. All right, next, we also have another class-specific piece of equipment, which is Crater Fist. So the Crater Fist, going to go ahead and pull that up. Action 3 resources. Destroy Crater Fist. Your attacks with Crush gain +2 this turn. Go Again. So this is particularly good if I'm going to have a turn where I can swing twice, right, with a Crush attack action. So we'll see what cards we end up doing, but most importantly, I think, is it's got 2 armor. So I can block for 2, it gets a -1 token, block for 1, it destroys itself. Tectonic Plating has a 2 armor as well. So Guardian immediately, I mean, that's like having 4 bonus health on the table. It's going to be hard for an equipment slot to compete with that. And then the other class-specific piece of equipment here is Helm of Eisen's Peak. You can take an action, spend a resource, destroy it. Your hero gets +1 hand size till the end of the turn. So in this case, it's got 1 armor. You'll block with it, and then at some point, you'll have a resource floating. You'll spend your action. You'll have an extra hand size, and that'll be really good, especially if there's a ton of blues in the deck, for setting up a turn where you could actually Crater Fist with 2 crushes, or just set up a really big swing turn. So we'll go ahead and get that out. All right, next we have the Bravo Specialization. I love this card. It's called Showtime. It's 3 costs. It's blue, so it's gonna trigger a Nethos if we needed to. It's a blue, which fits the theme. It's also got great art, so I'm sold. When Showtime enters the arena, search your deck for a Guardian attack action card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. So when you play this, you basically it replaces itself with any Guardian attack action. Now, if you have a ton of Guardian attack actions that are blue, this is essentially a free card to play, because you spend 3, put it into play, and get it back. So you really just you lose a card, but the fact that it replaces itself is pretty strong. And then at the beginning of your action phase, destroy Showtime, then draw a card. So it also gets you a card next round. This is an incredible build turn piece. Going to go either get the resources you need to play something else and increasing your hand size next round, or going to get a specific attack. Because sometimes, let's say I set up that big Towering Titan play, and having a card that lets me go get a specific attack that I want to have that Towering Titan modify, super critical. Z-Master, Showtime doesn't have Go Again, right? It does not have Go Again. So you'd either have to have 2 actions, or you just basically set up, put it into your arsenal, and you're off to the races, because you're also going to have an extra card. So if most of my cards are blue, if you're on a 4-card hand, it's possible you play this, you have a 5-card hand. If you end up with a Time Snap or something, you could also crack Helm of Eisen's Peak. You might have a 6-card hand. You have 4 or 5 blues in your hand. That is going to set up the Crater Fist turn like no one's business. See Obsidian? I appreciate that. He says, I got to drop off and actually get work done. This stream is just way too interesting. Take care. Well, I'm happy that's the case. Hopefully you'll come back and watch it in non-real time. Venture saying make a token into Showtime is insane. Make a token. What do you mean by make a token? From the tectonic plating? Go again, create a token, play Showtime, set yourself up. Yeah, it's really good. Let's see. Alex saying, is it possible to play 2 Towering Titans with Showtime and Helm in one turn? I would bet it's possible to put 2 Towering Titans into play on the same turn, because you only need 18. That's a funny sentence. Obviously, you'd have to have, I don't even know what you'd have to have. You'd have to have Energy Potions and Faendal's. So an Energy Potion plus Faendal's Spring Tunic, which that'll be a decision on whether or not to run that or Tectonic Plating. It's going to be Tectonic Plating. But if you did that, that's 3. So then it's 2 more blues to play this. You could possibly do it. AJ says, if you ever get 2 Towering Titans onto the field, you should just win. Valentino, the helm may not be worth it. We'll see. Jim, appreciate that. Yeah, I call it the Bravo Blues. I've been messing around with this idea for a minute, but I'm excited to actually have it built. And more importantly, to smash Steven with it next week. All right, so let's look at some other cards. Stamp Authority. This is blue. It costs 3. When Stamp Authority enters the arena, if you have 2 or more cards in your pitch zone with a cost 3 or greater, your hero gets +1 intellect until the end of the turn. So you draw back an extra card. While Stamp Authority is in the arena, attack action card effects do not trigger when they hit. At the beginning of your action phase, destroy Stamp Authority. So you can play this to basically get an extra hand size going into the next round and ensure your opponent can't trigger hit abilities. There are specific games where I feel like this could be make or break. I'm not there yet. I'm not at that point. I'm going to have to lose to specific hit abilities of Stevens before I start looking at this card. But the concept of a Guardian deck that builds to these 6, 7, 8 card turns and just goes crazy, that is where this card fits in. I don't know if that's where my deck's going, but maybe. We'll see. Next, we have Red Mangle. It's a 4-cost crush attack, which is good. If it deals 4 more damage to a hero, destroy target equipment they control with a -1 counter on it. So this is a very specific card. There is also the, what's the name of the card? Let me find it. Buckling Blow Red, which lets you put a -1 counter. So, you know, if there are pieces of armor that don't necessarily destroy themselves, example of this is Tectonic Plating. It can get to -2 armor, but it doesn't ever go away. So once it gets a minus on it, if you can hit them with a mangle, you can actually permanently destroy it. So this could really mess someone up. Again, though, this is very specific. It could end up being in the deck. It's red, so it's not necessarily top of the list, but there are probably specific cases where this is super good. Totally. I mean, I'm on that page, AJ. So part of what makes Mangle so good is it's a 4 cost for 8 with a Seismic token, Seismic Surge token. You're paying 3 for an 8 damage attack, which is that's just a good stat line. So we'll see. We'll come back to that. Next, we have Forged for War. This is an interesting card. It's a build card. It's an aura. It costs 2. Has go again. When it's in the arena, your equipment gets +1 armor. At the beginning of the action phase, destroy Forged for War. So at first I thought it meant my cards in my hand. I'm not even really thinking about it. But it actually gives your equipment you're wearing plus armor. So it turns Tectonic Plate into a 3. It turns Crater Fist into a 3. It turns Helm Vison's Peak into a 2. They lose that +1 at the end of the round, and they still get their -1 token. So if you have 4 pieces of armor you can send in, this becomes a 2-cost card that you invest in up front to know you can prevent 4 extra damage on your opponent's turn. This is the kind of card that I feel like you could very easily have as just like a decent resource card. If I wasn't going blues, I would be more inclined to this. Even as like a one-of. If you draw it early, you spend it. If you draw it late, when tempo becomes a thing, you play this. You still have a couple armor pieces. You have a little extra protection, and it lets you really swing at them next turn. I think that's an interesting card. 2 for potential +4. But like, again, if you're paying 2, you can pay 2 for some of the defense reactions that you don't have to pre-invest in. That can just be blue resources in your hand that do way more than providing you 4 armor. Next up, we have red Spinal Crush. It's a 5 for 9. If it deals 4 more damage to a hero, action cards, activated abilities, and attacks they control lose and cannot go again during their next action phase. So this just slows their roll, like completely slowing their roll. That is a powerful card. I think towards the end of my process, I'm going to end up putting some reds in because you can have a certain number of reds going, but I'm not there yet. So it's just good to be aware of these cards. Next, we have Righteous Cleansing. This reminds me so much of the Crag Hammer from the Spoils. It's crazy. This was an old game we used to play. So it's a yellow, costs 7, not cheap. It only costs 6 if we have a Seismic Surge token. If it deals 4 more damage to a hero, look at the top 5 cards of their deck. Banish 1 or more cards with the same name from among them, then put the rest on top of their deck in any order. So 60 card deck, you're going to see 5 of them, which is not even 10%. Odds are of them having 2 of the same name card, I'd probably put it at like 20-30% of the time that might work. So really, you're going to look at the top 5 and organize them. And this does 2 things. 1, you can control the flow of their cards and their resources ultimately, right? You can put all the reds up top and all the blues on bottom, or vice versa, and just kind of really mess them up. And 2, just information. Knowing what they're drawing into means that you can plan your turns out a lot more accurately. This is the kind of card that I think a really good player would make a lot of use out of. And then an average player would do it and it would be fine. But like, this is the kind of card that in like the finals of a world championship or something, absolutely just bends the game in the favor of one player. I'm not there yet, but it's a card I'm going to consider because, you know, someday, hopefully, maybe we get there. J Crab saying you can banish 1 off Righteous Cleansing. So you can banish 1 with the same name. So there have to be 2 of the same named cards in there. Oh, okay. So this is better than I thought. Banish 1 or more cards with the same name from among them. So you name a card and you can banish 1 or more. So if they hit 3 of the same card, you can banish all 3. That's confusing wording to me. Am I getting it right now? Waiting for chat. Chat's behind me. All right, thanks, Ryan. All right, and then we already had Cranial Crush, which I put in the list because Cranial Crush is good. So now I'm looking at my attacks, and so there's literally, outside the ones we've already seen, 7 Guardian attack actions, not even talking about generics yet. And I'm going to inherently lean towards blues, and I really like blues that are 3 and 4 cost, because being able to play 3s, like this is becoming way more likely that Crater Fist could actually hit, means that I can spend 3, spend a blue to play 1, spend a blue to play 1. That's a reasonable thing, especially with 1 in Arsenal. If I block with a single card, I think I can pretty reasonably get off 2 of these abilities, and then like an energy potion or something means I also trigger Bravo's ability. So sending multiple of these attacks at my opponent that all have dominate, it's way likelier that you're going to do some serious pain on top of obviously Towering Titan. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start by just grabbing the blues of all of these, and we'll see what our card count ends up at. But blue Buckling Blow, if you do 4 more damage to a hero, you put a -1 counter on one of their equipment cards. So I'm going to go ahead and move all this armor out of the way. Let's just see what we have on the table. Blue Cranial Crush, if you do 4 or more, their first action costs an additional resource. Okay. Chokeslam, blue. These are all blue, John. If Chokeslam deals 4 or more damage to a hero, attack action cards they control can't gain attack during their next action phase. It's pretty powerful. Cards like, what's the blade card that I like so much? The attack reaction with the blade on it. Razor Reflex. Got it. Those don't do anything, which is, I think those are generically good. The attack reactions are generically good. So that Chokeslam is a nice insurance policy. Jory saying, hey, Zach, I picked up a couple IRA decks from you guys to share with friends to get into the game, but they've been stuck in USPS purgatory for a month. Have you heard this happening to others? So both shipments from Covenant and then I've been doing trading. Like some of the things I've mailed, I dropped them off and a week later, it's still just at the Tulsa facility. I think USPS is struggling right now across the board. I've seen people getting stuff 2, 3, 4 weeks later that normally would have been 2 or 3 days. So just be patient. I think they will show up or they'll come back to us and we'll reach out to you. But at this point, it's just a matter of them being able to like catch up and breathe and get stuff in there. Z Master's asking, do you have 6 cards in each slot of that binder? I do. I sure do. All right, Crush Confidence, blue, 3 cost. If it deals 4 or more damage to a hero, they lose all hero card effects and activated abilities until the end of their next turn. I think that's fantastic. Just blanking their character is one of the most painful things you can do to anybody in any game ever. That's pretty brutal. Dustin's saying, how do we get these cards? Everything online is so expensive. You just have to wait. There's unlimited print runs of these things being made. If you can't find them at reasonable prices, there's reprint waves coming in over the next couple months. Monarch's coming out in April. If you're not on the wait list for all of those products for us, just sign up for the wait list. You'll get an email as soon as we have them and try to snipe some unlimited boxes. You're welcome, Jory. Happy to answer. AJ Brown saying he righteous cleansing away 2 Arknight Ascendancies last locals. Felt really good. Yeah, I mean, if you snipe the right cards with that, but it's just, I think it's 20 to 30% of the time you're going to hit. I don't know the exact math. Depends on the deck you're playing against. But, you know, I personally, as a competitive card gamer, the thing I don't like adding is more chance that something won't actually work. So I hesitate to put in cards like that. Even though sometimes they're absolutely the right card. All right. Crush the Weak, blue, 5 for 3. If it deals 4 or more damage to a hero, they can't play attack action cards with 3 or less base attack during their next action phase. So that's very specific. I'm going to pull it out, but that's, again, it's pretty cool because you'll start seeing how quickly the sideboard matters. There will be cards that you put in when you're playing against a ninja. Like even that right there, like if you're playing against Runeblade or Wizard, that's a dead card. So you just keep that in the sideboard against those. But against Ninja, it's phenomenal. Against Guardian, also not so hot, right? Like there's very few Guardian cards that that's going to matter against, like at any point. So that's a really specific sideboard card, which is why I'm happy that they have the sideboard included. Next, we get Blue Debilitates, 4 cost for 6. If it deals 4 or more damage to a hero, their first attack during their next turn has -2. I like that one. Again, though, that's if you're playing against Runeblade or Wizard, that's not the card. All right, and finally, we get Blue Disable. 5 for 7. If it deals 4 or more damage, put a card from their arsenal at the bottom of their deck. That is universally good. So let's take a look at this real quick. I'm gonna get my universal cards, and I'm gonna get my non-universal cards, and then I'm gonna come back and go to the non-attack cards, and then we'll go to generics, which is a wonderland of stuff to do. Cranial Crush means they can't draw during the next action phase. Most decks have some way of getting cards, and it's a blue that also is an 8 damage attack. That's going to stay in the generic list. Same with Showtime. Those are kind of just in. Buckling Blow. It's a 4 for 6 and put a -1 counter on equipment. There's going to be times when they don't have equipment where this matters, but I think more times than not, most characters are going to have some amount of armor. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in my generically good stack. It's not so specific. Chokeslam, though, is definitely in the middle. It isn't good against things that don't attack you. Wizard being a primary example of that. So it's in the middle. There's decks where I think I would take that out, but there are a lot of times, even against like Runeblade, they actually do attack. So that would stay in. Let's look at Cartilage Crush. Cartilage Crush, generically useful. The first action during the next turn costs initial resource. So that's really good even against Wizard. And it's good against anyone at standard attacking and whatnot. So that'll go in the generic pile. Crush Confidence. Fillmore, they lose their hero activated abilities. I think that are there any heroes where that isn't something you would want? I think every hero does something. So that's generically good. Disable, also generically good. I'll do Rose. So this will be super useful, and this will be my sometimes useful. Debilitate, sometimes useful, not as useful when they're not attacking you. Crush the Weak, specific card as well. So now we have these kind of rows, and then Towering Titan obviously being a nucleus of the deck. Someone asking on Twitch, do I want to become famous on Instagram? I'm going to go ahead and add you to a famous block list. Bradley saying against Dash, it's a dead card. How does Dash read? I don't even have Dash out. I'm going to slide these over. Benji and Ira, because they're just static effects. Is that what it is? They lose all hero card effects. So I feel like it would blank Ira, right? Mechanologist for Crush Confidence. Okay, so I need to look at Ira real quick. Not Ira, Dash. You can see Dash, I cannot. So Dash, you may start the game with a Mechanologist item. Yeah, so it literally would do nothing against Dash. But that's where, like, if you get paired against Dash, you could just not put Crush Confidence in your deck, which I think makes sense. But like knowing, I mean, I'm gonna have to have a little cheat sheet of like, here's the card you don't play against this person, and here's the card you do play. Yeah, okay. So now let's get to the non-attack actions. I'm gonna just look at the blues. We'll default to blues for this specific hero, Jonathan. First, we get Blessing of Deliverance, cost 2. When it enters the arena, if you have a card in your pitch zone with a cost 3 or greater, draw a card. At the beginning of your action phase, destroy it, and then reveal the top card of your deck. Gain a life for each card with a cost 3 or greater revealed this way. So it's a little confusing if you don't also have the yellow and red next to you. I remember the first time I opened this, I was like, I don't why do they even list that? The gain 1 for each. It's because the red version reveals the top 3, and then you gain a life for each one that costs 3 or greater. So you could potentially gain 3 life with this. I'm going to be on blues. I don't think the red is worth it enough to basically be resources short when I do draw it and don't want to play it. So I'm going to pass on that one. Next, we get Emerging Dominance. At the beginning of your action phase, destroy it. The next Guardian attack action card you play this turn gets +1 and Dominate. So this is an interesting one. I can see actually playing red Emerging Dominance because it's +3 and Dominate, and I don't have to spend those resources on the next turn. So I don't know. That's a maybe. I'm going to pull out the blue and the red just to have my stacks going. Because I like the idea of being able to build. Like, basically Bravo being able to really use a lot of cards to defend and put something down. And the next round he can defend again. And because he's got plus and dominate, he really only needs like 2 cards at that point to do a pretty big swing. Wade's saying, anyone have a particular brand of card sheets they like these that they like? I haven't used those, but this looks like a solid approach for building. Yeah, putting them in sleeves like this in a binder has been transformational for deck building for me. I use the Ultra Pro Platinums. They're just a little thicker, and like some of the cheaper ones are like way too soft and bendy. But there's a lot of opinions on that. All right, then we have Emerging Power. It's 2 cost aura. It has to go again at the beginning of action phase, destroy it. The next Guardian attack action gets +1 for the blue version. And it has go again built in, which is why compared to like Emerging Dominance that gives you Dominate, it doesn't have go again. So I could see a case. I think there's a deck that plays this kind of stuff. It's probably more in line with what I was saying earlier, which is like you're just playing the best attacks and half your cards are resource cards, half your cards are amazing attacks. You play this, and then next you're just kind of stacking up these really solid attacks. Next we have Stonewall Confidence, and something weird happened, right? I was playing such an aggressive Bravo, and I'm just really drawn. Anytime a card like the red Stonewall Confidence, +4 to all of those cards means most of your cards in this deck are going to be a 7. Like, that's crazy. 7 defense? Like, how do you get through that? I'm gonna grab the blues because it's that deck. But I'm also gonna grab the reds. Nah, you know what? I think the yellows, they provide more resources, and I might end up being the same thing on Emerging Dominance. But they provide you more resources, and then the difference between +3 and +4 defense is not going to be significant. Like that's unlikely to be the game breaking point. +3 is already doubling most of the defense on some of these cards. And then we get to reactions and instants, and then we'll be on to the neutrals or the generics. So first we have Blessing of Serenity. 0 cost, the blue, next time you deal damage, prevent 1 of that. The red one prevents 3. So it's kind of like an inverse Sigil of Solace. You can instant it when you're about to take damage and prevent it. This is really good for hit effects. So Sigil of Solace, you just gain life. But if they have a lot of the Guardian hit effects, preventing the damage, especially like you block with a 3, they boost it to get, maybe Dorinthia has like a go again effect that needs to hit. So you can slide this in and prevent 3. I think it's a really good card. And it's particularly good in certain matchups. But again, until I start losing to Dorinthia a lot because I can't stop the damage, I'd rather just like Stonewall Confidence it and just stop the attack dead to rights. Andrew, so happy to hear it. Saying I have so many cards but still haven't even tried serious deck building. This is super helpful. Thanks, Zach. Well, I'm new to it too. So having chat here is helpful. And building decks is one of the game outside the games that we talk about when it comes to card games and collectibles. This can be as fun as actually playing the game, which is fun. Bradley saying, does Blessing prevent arcane damage as well? It says yellow damage. I don't think that counts as arcane damage. I don't think so. And finally, we get Staunch Response. So this is a defense reaction. It costs 2. As additional cost to play it, you can spend 4 extra. So for 6, you can block for 8. Interestingly, like, so if you're paying 2 to block with this card, it's a 5, right? The blue version at least. So assuming you just had 2 cards that could block for 3 that you could have put in, you spend 0 resources and block for more. This gets really good when you need to add 5 after the fact, or potentially 8 or 7 with the red version. I think the red version is way better than the blue version here. But when you need to add it as a reaction, obviously that's the upside here. But like mathematically, this card is hard for me to appreciate because, you know, the red one at 7, if I threw 2 cards in, which I'm going to have to use to pay for this anyway, I'm going to have to pay with a card and play this card, then I can almost just block for 6 with the 2 cards. Now, it does save me a card, right? Because if I'm spending resources, I'm not losing that card permanently. It's still in my deck, so there is that like kind of soft benefit. But I don't think that this card is fitting with what I'm doing, especially if I end up going Stonewall. And because I'm playing blue and build a little more, I can be a little more defensive with my cards, so I don't think it quite fits here. Ryan Roper saying, one note about Blessing. This is totally true. It's an instant, so it gets around Dominate. That is important. As someone playing Bravo, I can tell you how important getting around Dominate actually is. All right, let's look at the neutrals. This is where the fun begins. So I have these sorted by like armor type. So head, we'll look here. So what I'm basically comparing, here it is, the Helm of Eisen's Peak to my other headgear option. So I look at Ironrot Helm, it's strictly worse. So they both have 1 armor except for Eisen's Peak has an ability. So no reason to use the Ironrot. Nullrune Hood, Arcane Barrier 1. So the reality of my armor suite, I have Helm, Crater Fist, and Tectonic as my like class-specific armor. And so of these, right, the least important is the Helm. So Nullrune Hood is not an awful sideboard card. So when I play against like Kano or Runeblade, I'm going to at least want to bring an Arcane Barrier 1 equipment into the fold. And so the reality is I'm going to have to choose one of my armor pieces that's least important. I'm not going to choose Tectonic Plating or Crater Fist to get rid of. So my Arcane Barrier flex spot has to either be Nullrune Hood or the boots. So we'll get to that. I'm going to go ahead and pull out a Nullrune Hood just so we have the option here. There's also Talismanic Lens. Instant opt, destroy Talismanic Lens, opt 2. I don't think opt is super important for Bravo, so I'm not going to end up playing that. We also have Hope Merchant's Hood. This could be a card. Destroy it, shuffle any number of cards from my hand into my deck and draw that many cards. So if I need an attack and I don't have it, or I need extra resources and I don't have it, this is a really great get out of jail free card. I don't think it's important enough for me to actually end up running, but I will keep that in mind. It's in the back pocket of my brain. Next, we have the arm pieces. So something to beat Crater Fist. Crater Fist is 2 armor, so I get a 2 and a 1 block. That's 3 health. It's going to be really hard for anything to match that. Ironrot Gauntlet, clearly not as good as Crater Fist. Nullrune Gloves. I'm not going to drop my Crater Fist for it, so I'm not happening. Gambler's Glove, whenever he rolls a 6-sided die. Nothing so far is going to roll a die on my side of the board, so that doesn't make a lot of sense for me. Goliath Gauntlet could make sense. Destroy it, the next attack action card with a cost 2 or greater gets +2, and this action has go again. So it's a pocket +2. Given that I have the Crater Fist, pay 3, crush attacks gain +2, I can get the +2 from it. It costs a lot more with the Crater Fist, and I have to destroy it. I could see Goliath Gauntlet if I had a very specific moment. I think Goliath Gauntlet, I probably overvalue it because we've been playing Blitz. +2 attack is 10% of a hero's health. So it's good, not great. Chris saying, Zach, you only pack 1 Arcane Barrier against Wizard. I usually pack 3 pieces in sideboard, keep the most important piece in class armor. Yeah, I mean, I think against Wizard, I'll probably be packing, I'll replace the helmet and maybe even the boots. But there's going to be stuff for us to look at in a second in that lane. Because basically, if Wizard hits you with a Arcane Barrier 3, if you have multiple instances of Arcane Barrier, you can pay 1 for each of those to prevent, right? Or is it the other way around, where like if you're doing 3, you'd have to have a single instance of Arcane Barrier 3 to stop it? Looking at Bracers of Belief, the final arms equipment, while I'm waiting on someone to answer that. Action, destroy Bracers of Belief, reveal the top card of your deck. If you do, the next attack action card you play this turn gets plus X attack, where X is 3 minus the pitch value of the revealed card. Go again. I'm playing mostly blues, so the pitch value is going to be 3. This card is not going to do anything for me. Funny, someone literally said on YouTube, the second one, Bradley on Twitch saying you were right the first time. Ryan Roper, I believe you, says you can add multiple different arcane barriers to add up to a multiple. So I will definitely look at, as an example, Crater Fist. Well, that's kind of a big go turn. I think they both have abilities that I would probably end up using to not drop, unless I really felt like I needed a third arcane barrier. Yeah, Chris Shorter saying you can activate each arcane barrier once for each instance of arcane damage. Valentino saying I was wrong this whole time. OMG. That's awesome. All right, we're going to keep looking at other equipment. Chest piece, Tectonic Plating is going to be really hard to beat. I think that flexibility of the resource plus the 2 armor. Iron Rod, obviously not doing it. Null Rune Robe, unlikely to throw it in there. Heart Cross Strap, destroy it. The next attack action costs 2 less. I could see you thinking about making a case for that kind of a thing, but I don't think it's better than my signature piece. And then Vest of the First Fist. When attack action card you control hits, you may destroy it. If you do, gain 2 resources. I think those are all fine, but it's going to be really hard to outshine Tectonic Plating. Yeah, we'll loop back around in a second and address that. Let's look at the boots real quick. I don't have any boots yet, so this is an open slot. I have the generic Iron Rot legs, which is just in 1 armor. I have the Null Rune boots, so I'm going to go ahead and get that out. So it's an arcane barrier if I end up getting paired against Wizard. Mage Master boots is an action resource, destroy them. The next non-attack action card you play this turn gains go again. Those are definitely on my list, especially with my build turns. Be able to destroy that to play a potion or 2 potions or a potion and an aura, super good, or like a Showtime into whatever the thing I'm doing. I think that's super good. We also have the Snapdragon Scalers. Destroy Snapdragon Scalers, target attack action with cost 1 resource or less, gains it go again. I don't have any of those, so that's not going to happen either. And then last, there is a neutral generic equipment called Arcanite Skullcap. If you have less life than an opposing hero, it gains +1 armor and Arcane Barrier 3. So this is a piece of armor I think I have to consider because it has 1 armor. If I have less life than my opponent, it's got an extra. I think that's a phenomenal card for what I'm trying to do here. AJ saying Skullcap is actually really bad against Wizard because if you're at a point where it's turned on, meaning you have less life than them, you're probably not in a good spot because they start at 30 compared to your 40. So I can appreciate that. Yeah, so like the other thing about it is, what was my... I'm going to guess the lesser important card. What do you think is less important between Tectonic Plating and Crater Fist? I feel like Crater Fist, the +2 on my crush, is going to actually matter. But I may end up null runing across the board. I probably need a 3rd piece. So I'm going to go ahead and get out the, whatever the arms one is, not the robe, the no rune gloves, just in case. What up, Lucas? All right, let's put the armor away. Those are decisions we can make later, ultimately. Yeah, I agree. I think the tectonic plating AJ is probably most important. Being able to fix my math across turns consistently is hard. It's really good. All right, so I'm definitely on energy potions and time snap potions. If I was feeling crazy, I could look at Crazy Brew. All right, some interesting cards here. Pursuit of Knowledge, only blue. In foil, it looks amazing. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. It's hard to see. Anyways, if it hits, your hero gains +1 intellect until the end of the turn. I don't think I have a way to make sure that hits, so it's blue, so there is that. Last-ditch effort is actually really interesting to me. When you play it, if you have no cards in your deck, it gains +4 and go again. So this is the kind of card that you use as a resource early, period. And then, obviously, at the end of the game, you have these stacked in the bottom of your deck. So if you do draw the end, and this is what you have, it being a 8 damage attack with go again, it's pretty powerful. What up, Brandon? So I could see Last Ditch Effort as a 1 or 2 or 3 of at some point in the deck. I'm not sold on it yet, but like that is an interesting card once I get good with the deck. Then, of course, you have Enlightened Strike. It's a 0 cost for 5. This card's Crazy Town. As a cost to play it, you put a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck. Then you choose one, draw a card. It gains +2, so it's a 0 for 7. Or it gains Go Again. So 0 for 5 with Go Again. This is just a generically phenomenal card. We will see. I'm not ready to put it in yet, but it's not far off. Then we have Tome of Faendal. This card, I love this card every time I see it. Very little card draw in this game. But the card draw that's there is phenomenal. So 2 extra cards on a turn. If you play from Arsenal, you gain a life for each card in your hand. So if this is an Arsenal and you have 4 cards in hand, let's say you had a turn where you Eisen's peaked. Now you're at 5. You played Faendal from Arsenal. Now you're at 7, gaining 7 life and drawing 2 extra cards. Wild. So I'm going to put this in the deck for now. And we'll see if it ends up getting cut. But that is a phenomenal card. All right. Now basically looking at blue attacks. Small attacks like blue back ally break line. Probably not going to do it, but I'll read it anyway. If an activated ability or action card that puts it into a zone from your deck, gain an action point. That's not going to happen. Someone's saying Pursuit of Knowledge would dominate. So the problem is that Bravo, I think, only action cards that cost 3 or greater gain dominate. So Pursuit of Knowledge only costs 2. I can't do it. Lucas saying, I can't wait to start playing. I managed to reserve a box of Monarch in a German store. I'm French. The wait will be very, very long. Yeah, I'm super pumped for the next set, and its release can't get here soon enough. Next, we have Blue Barraging Braunhide. If it's submitted by less than 2 non-equipment cards, it gains +1. I don't think that's my... that's not really making it. I'm going to skip some cards that I don't think are worth it. Demolition Crew is not bad. Drone of Brutality, specifically the red one, not bad either. It's a 2-cost 6 damage attack that goes to the bottom of your deck no matter what happens. So that's just kind of an infinite refill. I don't think that's the game I'm playing, but it's a generically phenomenal card, so it's at least on the short list. Flock of the Featherwalkers, I don't have 1-cost cards to really reveal. Now, Life for a Life, this is the kind of card, like, let's look at blue Life for a Life. So it's a 1 for 2, and if it hits, I gain a life, And if I have less life than my opponent when I play it, it gains go again. I'm planning on blocking a lot. But still, being able to like swing with a 1 and then, swing in with like a big attack after that, I'm always drawn to Life for a Life and Scar for a Scar. I don't think this is the right deck for it, but I'm close. All right, I'm gonna skip some stuff here. These don't look particularly notable for my strategy. So like the upside of cards like blue Scar for a Scar and blue Life for a Life is you can actually apply some amount of pressure and still build your board with very few cards. Like blue Scar for a Scar, it's either a resource card, which is great, or you swing for 2 as your first action. They either take it or they block with it, giving you, them less cards in their hand. And then you can put down a card to build or swing with an actual attack. So those are interesting to me. We'll see what my card, I won't forget those. So we'll see what my number of cards is by the time I get to that point. All right, attack reactions. I have blue Pummel, which is either a club or a hammer, which is my weapons, get +2, or an attack action card with a cost 2 or greater gets +2, and if it hits, they discard a card. I love discard. I love being able to surprise attack modify, so I'm going to go ahead and grab 3 Pummel because I think that's interesting. We also have blue Razor Reflex, Sword or Dagger, and then attack action card with a cost 1 or less gains +1, and if it hits, gains go again. Not built for this deck. We also have Lunging Press. Target attack action card gains +1. It's fine. It's a blue. It's okay, but I don't think it really matters so much for me. Then we get the defense reactions. We have, of course, Sink Below. I don't know. Fate Foreseen and Sink Below, I don't know if they make sense. I'm not a huge fan of the blues for this. Because reacting for 2, not overly valuable. I think I have a ton of armor, and I think when I block, I'm going to block with big cards. So I'm going to pass on these for now. Then we get some more defense reactions. We have Springboard Somersault, 0 cost yellow. If it's played from Arsenal, it gains +2. This is closer. The kind of defense reaction that I could see getting into. A 0 for 4 is pretty good. It's also a yellow resource. So this might end up on the list, but right now it's not there. We also have Unmovable, the blue version. If it's played from Arsenal, gains +1. It's a 5 defense reaction. Huh. I don't know. It seems pretty good. 3 being the relevant number. Let me look at the. Let me look at what my card was earlier. Because I need to compare it to his defense reaction, Staunch Response. It was 2 for 5. I'm not sold. I'm going to put it back for now. You guys can convince me of it in chat or not. Who's got a case for it? All right, let's look at some other generic cards. Cash in, not 4 for draw 2, not lighting it up for me. Chains of Eminence, that's constantly a card that I know is good and that good players will use to great effect, but I'm not there yet. Snag, it's blue, 0 cost attack action cards can't gain attack from their own effects or the effects of attack reaction cards this turn. So that obviously is just a generic instant you can try to resolve when your opponent's trying to react something. Valentino saying put both. What's the case? How does the math work out? What am I trying to defend against when I put those cards in? We also have Art of War. 1 cost yellow. Choose 2. Attack action card you control gain +1. Attack and defense this turn. The next attack action card you play this turn gains go again. Until the end of turn, you may defend with attack action cards from Arsenal. You may banish an attack action card from your hand. If you do, draw 2. So I don't think those are super relevant for Bravo. Because the go again, I would have to be able to also to pay for this and 2 attacks. Unlikely. Defending with attack actions from Arsenal, that could be good. But I won't need 2 of these on the same turn. Banishing a card to draw 2 is really just replacing. I have enough blues. I think it's not going to really matter for me. What's of Remembrance? This is not a bad card. Put 3 action cards from your graveyard into your deck. You shuffle, so it also gives you a shuffle. If there were specific cards I needed to see over and over again, is where I would play that. There will be decks where that's the case. Mike's saying the blue defense reactions are attack reactions with hit abilities. That's what you're defending against. I mean, it's probably worth sideboarding them. So, like, I'm going to go ahead and grab 3 unmovable that are blue. I know, like, Dorinthia has hit effects. What other heroes have major hit effects that you would pull these from a sideboard and actually put them into your stack for? Ryan Roper saying, I could see a world where you want to shuffle Towering Titan back in. Yeah. My thing about Towering Titan, though, is I think when I see it, I play it. And when I play it, it's going to happen. And so with 40 health, you know, I mean, how many times do you need a 15 to 20 damage attack? Would it make more sense to put in yellow Remembrance or just have yellow Towering Titans? All right, generic actions. Some of these, you know, like come to the fight. Blue's not really doing much. Cost 1 to get +1. Enchanting Melody is not bad. It's an aura with go again, so you can build. It prevents damage. Foresight, don't really need to opt. Lead the Charge blue, potentially pretty good. It's 0 cost, and if you play an action card with a cost 2 or greater, you gain an action point. So this would let me swing with something and still put down a potion. I like that a lot. So I'm going to grab 3 of these blue Lead the Charge. Bravo can actually take advantage of that. Nimblism, not for me. Plunder Run, blue, next time you attack action control hits, draw a card. If it's played from the arsenal, +1. I really like the red one. 0 for +3 is really good. And then if you hit, you get a card back. I always like seeing Plunder Run. I'm not sure it goes in this deck, but it's close. Sluggism blue. It's a resource. It also has a +4. I think this is if you Towering Titan into a turn where you can play Sluggism and swing with an attack, is where we start getting into some of the money plays. So I'm going to grab 3 of those. I'm going to go ahead and grab the yellow, just in case. I don't think this is a Moonwish Sunkissed deck, fortunately. Sigil of Solace, I don't think the blue is necessarily worth it yet. I'm not playing the red, so kind of move on from that. And that's it. So let's see how many cards we're at right now. All right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So I'm nowhere near 80. I'm on the verge of 80. I'm on the verge of 80. So I'm going to grab a couple more generically good cards. Z says cracked bobble for sure. So I'm just going to pull out Think Below. Red. Actually, I have a stack of just generically useful cards. For this very reason. Let's grab some red Sink Belows. And we'll probably end up putting in some red attacks from Guardian once we get down to it. All right, so let's divide these out. I want to look at my build cards because you can have too many. And like these potions, while they're good, you can't defend with them. So that's a problem. This counts. All right, so I'm going to definitely put in Showtime. That's happening. And blue Towering Titan. I think that's just like nucleus of the deck. Whether or not yellow Towering Titan gets in, we will see. We will see. Emerging Dominance is a fine build card. It lets me float the Dominate and gives me plus. So, you know, playing Emerging Dominance red +3, it's going to make some of my attacks feel like reds, even though they're not. I'm not ready to make a call on that. Let's think about this. I think Energy Potion is too good not to run, because I have to really decide if I'm trying for the double attack Crater Fist. But I think I'm definitely on Energy Potion and Time Snap. Would anyone argue otherwise? Is there a case? I want to hear cases against this. Valentino asking if there's an upper limit for constructed. It's 80. Yep, you bring 80 cards, including your armor, and you cut down to 60 after you see your opponent's hero. Super cool mechanic. So, looking at Stonewall Confidence, you know, the difference between blue and yellow, I like blue a lot. It's a go again build card, so I can double build, right? I could like play Stonewall Confidence and a potion, or I could play Stonewall Confidence into a hammer swing. And so I don't think the +3 is going to be as significant as missing out on the resource. So I'm going to start on blue, and I'm going to have a yellow off to the side because that might end up happening. When it comes to Emerging Dominance, I actually like the red better because it's giving me the +3 attack and the Dominate. That's a very specific lane of a card. It's kind of like a miniature Towering Titan because it gets me the Dominate without spending the resources and the +3. So in the next round, that's where something like Slogism really works. So Slogism plus Emerging Dominance, or Slogism plus Towering Titan on the next turn are both really solid plays. So I'm going to put the blue Slogism down. I have my yellow suite over here. And we're just going to have to look at my resource curve at the end of this thing. I also think Emerging Dominance with the next round of like a pummel, same kind of vibe. So I'm going to go ahead and drop that in. I'm going to stack my defense reactions real quick. All right, and so I have, let's see, Buckling Blow is a definite on the attack. That's going to be in. Same with Cartilage Crush. Oh, you know what? There's something missing that's really important. I have this Shiana deck here. And it has, I thought something was missing. This is an important piece of the pie. Crippling Crush. And I do believe I have a third copy somewhere. We're on the way. It's somewhere. AJ Brown saying Crippling Crush, LOL. Unwon Addict saying I look bored. Do I look bored? I don't feel bored. I feel like my brain is like working to both talk and chat and read the chat and build this deck. We did an Arkham building stream just before the break, and it almost killed Steven and I. Like, it was close. It almost got us. So Crippling Crush is a 7-cost red attack. If it deals 4 or more damage to a hero, they discard 2 random cards, and it's an 11. So Crippling Crush, the turn after Towering Titan, is just Bonkstown, right? I mean, 19 is just an absurd amount of damage. Z Big Cheese saying Time Snap, not to run Time Snap. You'll never have enough resources to use it effectively. Guardian cards cost too much. Better to focus on dominating your big attack rather than hitting multiple. What I'm saying, when you rest your head on your hands, you look a little bored. I think that's just being intensely focused. Crippling Crush is going in. I think I need 3 of those, just straight up. I thought there was a third one floating around. Maybe I was wrong. I'll have to procure a third one. I mean, you guys are making a good case against this Time Snap potion. I'm not gonna lie. I think Lead the Charge and my boots, my Mage Master boots, are probably going to be enough. So I'm going to put this aside. I'm going to listen to the wisdom of the crowd. And instead, we're going to go Lead the Charge. How we feel about that? So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 times 3 is what? 30, 42. So that's good. That's good. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18 attacks. I'm going to go ahead and put in Tome of Faendal. That's going to happen. And we'll do red Sink Below and blue Unmovable. So now we're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times 1, 2, 12, 13, 14, 17 times 3. 51. So I have 9 slots that I still need in my deck. And I'm not sure if Unmovable is the right call. Let me get the Guardian cards back out. Samus says, will you have enough resources for multiple actions with Dominate attack on average? I mean, I think so, right? Like, so I have Crush Confidence, Cartilage Crush, Buckling Blow. Like if I have a Seismic Charge token as an example, I have a lot of these 3s. So it's quite possible I could just swing with 2 of them, especially like with an Energy Potion out or something. All right, let's look at the, yellows. You know what? I actually think I'm going to compare the defense reaction. So Staunch Response next to Unmovable. So it's 2 for 5 or 3 for 5. And Unmovable is maybe a 6. I think Staunch is better. Because it can also be an 8 if I need it to. That's where I'm at. AJ saying the 3 matters for Anothos. Yeah, I can see that. So if a Staunch Response as a resource won't trigger Anothos, but I'm willing to trade that. So I feel like Towering Titan is such a critical component of my deck that I want more in. I don't know the right number. Even at 6, it's 1 in 10, so I'm only going to see it every 3rd turn. I think it's worth trying to start, starting with 6 of those. So I'm still 6 short, and I have a flex board. So I think really what I include after that is going to be flexible. So let's go ahead and pick 6 and then change my mind. Z-Big saying you can run Tome of Fandel to pair with the Mage Master Boots. I wouldn't recommend running more than that because they only block for 2. And without Mage Master Boots, they won't have Go Again. That's true. But I also have Lead the Charge, which is notable, although it doesn't trigger on Tome. Interesting. Yeah, the time snaps kind of matter for Tome, but it's really how far down that rabbit hole do you want to go. Gruder saying not including Blessing of Deliverance. I wasn't particularly impressed, but let's read it again. Make sure I'm not crazy. When it enters the arena, if you have a card with a pitch of 3 or greater, draw a card, so it kind of replaces itself, and then you potentially gain life. 2 or 3 life. It's definitely not bad. I could see. I'm not sure it fits in with what I'm doing, though. I think I need another big attack. Mangle is pretty good. Righteous Cleansing is not bad because it's a yellow, but it's also a 10. Because like you know, a Towering Titan into a next turn Righteous Cleansing is not bad. I think I might do something a little fun. So let's go 1 Mangle, 2 Righteous Cleansing. Maybe a Spinal Crush before it's all said and done. That's true. If I switch Lead the Charge to yellow, it works with Tome. So I might do that in a second. Let's just go ahead and look at it. So Lead the Charge yellow. I don't know why I know why I grabbed 2 actually, because I'm used to playing Blitz. So if I switch here, then it works with Tome. And I like Tome a lot. A lot. Yeah, I agree. I think having a Mangle around is really good because there will be instances where I really need it. And I have Showtime, so I can go pick and choose, right? Same thing with Righteous Cleansing. Potentially, if they stack the top of their deck, I can really mess with them. And even Spinal Crush. If I'm, playing against Ninja, it's a good card to be able to just go get. So we'll put that here. I'm going to go ahead and do the Lead the Charge switch for now. What are we at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times 1, 2, 3, 18, 19. Plus I have 2 card slots that I could put in. Stan saying, do you like Crush the Weak? It's much cheaper cost than most of your damage cards. Anything with Tower will still hit pretty good, especially if it's dominated. Crush the Weak. Where is Crush the Weak? I have it over here in my short stack. I think it's in my sideboard. So I have certain attacks that are just very sideboard specific for me. And, fully fleshing out what goes in my sideboard and why I'm playing certain things, I'm not quite on that level. So I'm really trying to get to 60 and then have a stack of cards I might play at some point next to it. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 pieces of armor and 1 weapon right now. So that's 9. So I only have 11 sideboard slots. So I'm actually pretty close here. I think what I might do for now is go with my earlier thought. I'm going to put 2 time snaps in. They're blue, so they're resources, and they're just build cards. I think the synergy with Tome, and then specifically with my ability to, like swing with a hammer and also still just put a card down, could be really good. Or Showtime, right? Be able to go get the card you want and immediately playing it. And we'll start there. So let's look. I have a short stack of cards here. I also have the blue specific attack cards. Let's see how many attacks I have. 21, 22. I think my play is the Towering Titan play, right? Like it's a little different. I don't need to attack every turn. Let's look. How many reds do I have? 1, 2, 3. So 9 of my cards are red. And then 1, 2. Technically, here's 2 more reds. 2 blues, 2 yellows. So 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 1 and 6. I'll see a red every other turn. And then I have 1, 3, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 yellows. So I'll see a yellow every other. So it's basically like out of every 6 cards I see, 1's yellow, 1's red, and 4 are blue. So I should have 3 blues pretty much in every hand, which is about what I want. Because I need to be able to play those Towering Titans. Ryan Ober saying, remember that anything that seems pretty good against 2 or more classes is a good candidate for the 15 to 20 cards sideboard. Yeah, I agree with that. I think I'm at a point though where like what I need to do is play this 60 card deck and then tweak as it makes sense, right? I'll get to play against various classes. So I'm gonna go ahead and sleeve this so I can put them in a stack, and then I'll look at what time it is and what we're doing. That was a wild process. I had also built a version of this deck on FabDB, so I'm kind of curious to see, and that was a week or 2 ago, but I'm curious to see how the deck I built without cards in front of me. It's a lot of the same cards, but it's not the same. I'm curious to see what's different about that. Is there any card that you guys feel like I'm definitely missing at this point? Or anything that seems way off about this deck for anyone that thinks they might know something about this game? Obsidian saying, after dropping in and out of here throughout the afternoon, I'm just like, I did not put enough blue cards in my Guardian blue deck. Chris Ryan saying, word up, Zach. Happy Tuesday. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. Lucas saying, I wanted to buy some young heroes in anticipation of Monarch. My friend is a fan of Ira. Is she viable or is she too below the other ninja? Ira's one of my favorites. A generic +1 on that second attack, I think is really good. And her whirling, her signature card, Whirling Mist Blossom, I think is what it's called. That's a phenomenal card. Yeah, the sideboard of this is so interesting. I definitely understand the like armor sideboarding. And I think what's going to end up happening is like I'm going to have 12 or so cards that replace cards currently in my deck specifically for particular matchups. So might be some more defense reactions against a warrior. Who knows what'll end up happening. AJ saying so many games in because one of the players drew an item or an instant. Stan B saying I put Scar for a Scar red in every deck, 0 cost for 4 damage and a possible go again. Yeah, it's one of the best cards. I'm trying to get away from just dropping in Scar for a Scar and Life for a Life into every one of my decks. Specifically here, I'm exploring Towering Titan, which I think is just a very different tempo of a game. If my opponent only has a 3 or a 4 defense card, I'm going to put this in backwards to proxy this Crippling Crush. You know, if they're only black for 4 and I'm swinging for 18, I only need to hit so many attacks in that case before it's a real problem for them. Ryan Roper saying the only card I think you might be missing is Pummel. Pummel's definitely in here. I have blue Pummel currently. Gruder saying usually Remembrance is quite good. One tends to use their best cards as soon as they draw them, so being able to get them back is really powerful. I think playing full construct is going to be helpful. At 40 health, I do think you can play a longer game. And the longer game is going to allow you to actually like need to get those cards back. And like Blitz, I don't think Remembrance would have quite the impact as it can in full constructed. Almost sleeved. And then I can play against my non-existent opponent. I'm actually going to do some test draws just to see how we're feeling. Yeah, I think 1 or 2 Remembrance is probably on the money because you can use it as a resource early. And if you get to the point where you're seeing it again, you're probably gone through most of your deck. So being able to put really good, especially the lower density your deck is, right? Because like shuffling 3 good cards back into your deck, the shuffle becomes super relevant if you have 8 cards in your deck and you put 3 in. The odds of you seeing whatever it is you're putting back, I think, are super high. Let me count here, and then I need to basically align and make sure all my armor is sleeved the same. $60. Great. All right, let's fix this. As a sign of how unique this game is, it's the first game I ever actually bought perfect fit sleeves for, so that I could double sleeve my rarer, more valuable cards. I've seen them a lot, and I totally get it when you have very valuable cards, but I've just never really had a game where it made total sense. What's happening? Philip Gamble saying, I would not run Skullcap as the main helmet. If I missed that, Guardian's common helmet is super strong IMO. Yeah, I have Arcanite in my sideboard. And it's specifically, if I end up deciding I need Arcane Barrier, it may not even end up in my sideboard, but it's currently in the stack. But Helm of Isen's Peak is my go-to. How you doing, Philip? I'm really excited for our store to be open so that we can play. Is this like sealed? There it is. I didn't even know. What is happening? That's a crazy sleeve. I traded for that card, and it was in this like super wrapped up sleeve. That's smart, though. I like those. What kind of perfect fit sleeve do you guys use? That one I just was messing with was like surprisingly... it's like it has a layer wrapped under it. It's not what I'm used to. All right, John, just so you're aware, I'm going to do some test draws, and then we're going to bounce. Again, the value of these cards is kind of weird. It's cool, but also like makes me pretty terrified. Like I have this cold foil Crater Fist, and it's like, you know, don't want to accidentally just totally ruin it. That's why you sleeve it and leave it. All right. Let's do some test draws. So we'll assume Anothos. We'll assume Helm of Isen's Peak, Mage Master Boots, Crater Fist, Tectonic Plating. And I have a sideboard of the other stuff. And then let's pile shuffle. I'll get my standard setup going, even though Steven's not with us today. These cold foils are legit. Has anyone out there experimented with a Towering Titan deck? I'm curious to see if it's real. I like the idea of 20 damage swings. Sean Cena, that's hilarious. Says, will there be any more epic duels or Star Wars TCG content? Odds are very high, specifically on the Star Wars TCG front. We're, we'll see, but the presumption is we're going to keep streaming for a while. So I'd like to do like kind of mini series on some of our favorite games, Star Wars TCG being one of them, where we kind of spend 4 to 6 weeks streaming it, deck building and stuff. Philip saying I'm switching over to a non-foil for a lot of my stuff. Originally, I was going to keep everything related to my favorite heroes at least, but I don't know. Yeah, the value is getting to the point where it's hard to hold on to them. Something gaming said I've seen a lot of people put equipment in hard sleeves. I could see that. Putting them in top loaders. They're really valuable. Mike's saying he thinks that Towering Titan is generally the way to go with Guardian. Like a lot of things in Flesh and Blood. From what I can tell, it's just learning how to set it up. Yeah, the reality that you can do a 20 damage swing with Dominate is probably enough to make it at least worth really exploring. Stan saying, if your deck ever works, Chains of Eminence will be the best side deck card ever. Is changes it goes away after a round, right? Gritter saying it's pretty nice that you can get cards graded and still play with them. Yeah, you could like send them into Beckett to get graded in the sealable thing and then just play with them that way. That's what's cool. That's a cool. Again, I think that really shows Legend Story Studios' understanding. The fact that they made the really rare cards cold foil, and the way they're making them available and unlimited, and how the balance of it and all that kind of stuff. On top of the fact that it's cards that you don't even shuffle with mostly, very smart. All right, 4-card hand. So I'm loving Emerging Dominance already. Let's just say I'm going first, right? So I think what I do is I spend a 3. So let's go ahead and spend, I'm going to keep Cartilage Crush just to be safe and make sure I have an attack, even though odds are I'll draw one. But I'm going to spend a Staunch Response, 1 on Tectonic Plating, create a Seismic Surge token, and then spent. I have 2 left over, so I'll play a red Emerging Dominance. Cartilage Crush I'll keep, Lead the Charge I'll keep. I'm actually going to put Cartilage Crush under. So part of me would do Lead the Charge just because I know I can spend. Actually, you know what? I'm going to. It's a yellow, so I'm going to put this in my arsenal. I'll put it on my weapon. I know I can play it at any turn even if I don't have any cards to use it with. I also basically keep a Cartilage Crush blue. So if I draw into like a big cost attack, this is just more resource potential. So Staunch Response goes under, and then I will draw 3. Okay, so I got a Tome, Cartilage Crush, Stonewall Confidence. So then my opponent goes, this is the beauty of playing Guardian. Let's say I block with Tectonic, block with Crater Fist. I'll put, I'm going to grab some dice. I'll put -1 on both of those, blocked for 4, took some damage. Maybe I block with a card, I don't know. I haven't really worked out the math yet, but my turn comes. Seismic Surge is here. I destroy it, the next Guardian attack action. I play this turn, cost 1 less. Emerging Dominance triggers. My next Guardian attack action gets +3 and Dominate. So, I ultimately want to end with Tome in my arsenal. It's a shame because I really want it in my arsenal instead of Lead the Charge. But it's fine. So I think I just play... I'm going to get Lead the Charge out of here. So I'm going to play Lead the Charge. The next time I play an action card that costs 1 or greater, I get an action point. So then I'm going to spend 3 on Cartilage Crush. It's an 8 with Dominate. My opponent deals with it in whatever way they want. And I'll spend 3. It's fine. And it has Go again because I Lead the Charge. So I will spend 1. No, I'm going to keep that. I should have actually blocked. I blocked with the Helm on the first turn as well, because why not? We'll do this. And then I'll spend 1 on the plating, and I'll spend 1 to destroy the Helm and get an extra hand size. I'll put Tome of Faendal under. So these will go under. I have hand size of 5. Towering Titan's going to happen. It's actually awesome. This is going to be great. So this clears. That's all fine. My opponent goes, let's say I block with Tectonic this turn. And, I take a punch in the face. Fine. My turn happens. Seismic Charge triggers. Now I got to think about it. So I essentially definitely want to get that out. But I can Mage Master Boots. Pay 1, destroy it. The next non-attack action card gains Go again. I'll pay 1 for Tome of Faendal. Drawing 2. Gaining 6 life. And then... Crazy. I have a resource floating. I'll Seismic Surge for 1. And then I spend 9 on a yellow Towering Titan. Here. And then I'll put Showtime under an arsenal. Keeping Cartilage Crush in hand. Draw back up. And it's their turn. They do their thing. Probably block again with Tectonic. Maybe even with Crater Fist if I need it. Because what I'm looking at is on my turn, it's -1 and +9. So, what's in Arsenal? Showtime. So I'll probably spend 1 here to create a Seismic Charge. Or Seismic Surge. I have 2 floating. Spend 2 to play a Disable at 16. And if it deals 4 or more damage to a hero, they're put a card from the arsenal on the bottom of their deck. It probably will. These flip under, and now we're back around. And I created that again. It's pretty crazy. Z, I'm looking respectfully. Taylor saying, oh, hey, y'all. So now I'm going to do a quick test draw, and I'm going to go second just to see. But the armor is super helpful. Having 5 armor to start the game. Technically 5, 6, 7, because I can use the Tectonic and Crater for a 2 and a 1. Okay. So if they're crazy enough to attack, I have Sink Below. If they're not crazy enough to attack, my first turn's pretty simple, I think. I just have Lead the Charge in hand, yellow. So it pairs really nicely with this Tome of Faendal. So I would literally just drop the Tome and spend 1 to create a Seismic Charge, just to freak them out. Then their turn comes. This is still in hand. They do their thing. I block with the helmet and the Crater Fist. Let's just say that's what happens. My turn comes. Seismic Charge triggers. It destroys itself. That's fine. So then I play Lead the Charge from hand. Then I play Tome of Faendal from hand or arsenal. I have 2 floating resources. I draw 2. Has go again, and I gain 4 life. And now I have some interesting options. So like I didn't draw enough resources to be able to play Towering Titan. So I'll be holding. I could play Crippling Crush because it's -1. That seems really strong. Or I can give Dominate and play a Cranial Crush. But I think what I would do is just kind of... oh, wait, I have 2 floating resources. Even better. So I think I would use... pay 1, create this, and then it destroys, so it's a 6. So I'd go ahead and load the bottom of my deck with these Cranial Crushes and hold on to Towering Titan. 11 damage, Crippling Crush triggers. They deal with that in whatever way they decide. Towering Titan I'm going to put under, which is a little risky because I might not be able to get it out. What up, Sean? Saying, never heard of this game. I'm so used to Yu-Gi-Oh! Redemption and Star Wars. It's worth checking out. Ryan saying, out of curiosity, you guys going to play Crisis Protocol anytime soon with the new stuff? Maybe swap out a Marvel Monday. It's quite possible. I did a ton of painting over the break. So we'll see what the next few weeks holds. All right, background to it. I mean, I think I'm in just defensive mode here. I won't be able to play that Towering Titan out, which is fine. I did get Lead the Charge, which could be interesting, but I don't think it much matters. So they're going to go, I probably end up blocking with Emerging Dominance and maybe even Crippling Crush if I need to. So we'll just say I did. Then on my turn, this triggers, nothing really happens. I think I just create a Seismic, have one floating, play a Time Snap. Okay, then they go, then it's back to me. I'll probably block. There's another Crippling Crush. So probably block here with the 3 and some armor. It's fine. Then my turn, Seismic Surge triggers. Mangle seems like the option here. But I really want to get Righteous Cleansing out. I need blues. Actually, I think what I do, just to clear it, this goes away, it doesn't matter. I'll trigger Bravo's ability. Then I'll swing with a hammer. Playing here and here. I'm just trying to clear my hand. And it's a 6. So 6, they do their thing. Back around. And I'm just looking for blues at this point. Finally got them. I knew they were coming because I wasn't seeing the other stuff. So they go. I technically have Staunch Response if it gets weird. But, you know, let's just say I block with a 3 and some armor. They do their thing. My turn comes. I finally get to do what I've been waiting to do. Play a blue Towering Titan. These go under. We draw. Hope I see at least an attack, which I did. So they do the thing. I have Towering Titan in the arms, so I just have to pick. Disable's pretty good, but it costs 4. So if I needed to, I could block 5 here. So we'll just say I did that. Then it's my turn. This triggers for +8, which I like. And then I can literally play a Crush Confidence for 3. And it's a 13. And then technically, if I save 2 resources, if I didn't block for 5, I could also give it Dominate, which is probably what I really would have done, taking some damage. So then we're back around. So I think Towering, what I like about Towering Titan is it lets you have these like really big turns without essentially having to sacrifice much tempo at all. I think the armor is really good on Bravo. And then I think being able to basically defend and play some build cards, defend and play some build cards until you're ready. And then you just wait. I love the idea of like a really patient Flesh and Blood deck. A lot of times in Blitz, it got really scrappy really quick. It gets down to it. And like, you just basically are scrapping around at the end. And it really just depends on what you top deck. But in this case, I think you can just be patient and not take damage unless you want to. And then the turns that are big are going to be bigger than anyone else's big turns, which is kind of what Guardian is bringing to the table. So we'll see if it works. I'm going to go ahead and switch cameras real quick. And what I'm probably going to do, because obviously doing it while we're live, it's just a certain amount of energy and effort to building decks, and I think it's helpful in some ways, but also takes longer. So between now and next week, I'll probably be building some more of my decks physically, so they're ready. Probably also see if I can cajole Steven into putting some lists together that he wants me to build. Next week, we're probably going to end up just testing out some of these constructed decks. If not next week, in the next couple of weeks, he is going to want to build some as well, so I might build again next week. But I also finally got my Arcane Rising Unlimited in. So if you've been waiting on that, that should already be on the way to you. And it's possible we'll also want to explore sealed, because one of the last cards I'm searching for, even though the odds of me getting it are super low, is Eye of Ophidia. Specifically for Kano. I think that's an incredible card. So we'll see if I can roll the dice and get that card. Otherwise, we built the deck. That was a process, and I feel like it's just now starting. So now it's like I need to play against all the other classes. I need to tweak. I need to test. But standard constructed already feels way different than Blitz, and I'm super happy that they made the Blitz format, because this would have been extremely intimidating when I first started. So if you're new, check out some of our sealed streams. I think sealed and draft is a great way to start. I think Blitz is a great stair step to the next layer. And then I'm having done all that, I'm really excited about full constructed. I feel like my grasp of this game is so much better than it was early on. And a lot of the cards that didn't make as much sense when we were playing Blitz make a lot more sense here. Even Towering Titan. Someone asked me early on what I thought about that card, and I said I thought it could be useful, but at the same time, it seems very specific, and now it's one of the cards I'm most excited about. So it'll be super cool. Any last questions or comments before I get out of here? Ryan Rober saying he can't wait to see us play. Yeah, I'm excited. Now that I've built this, I'm really excited to play. So it's kind of like a catch-22 where I spent the time building it, and now I can't use it at least until next week. That's brutal. Super brutal. Jim, glad you enjoyed today. It was definitely a learning experience for me. Tomorrow I'm doing Skytear solo. They have a new format they've introduced, which I'm excited about. And Ryan mentioned he's excited for more Middle Earth, though. Thursday I'm doing Middle Earth CCG solo mode that I made. Posted a blog about it. Kind of a custom open world rule set, so I can just explore Middle Earth using the decks from that game. That game is fascinatingly fantastic. I'm weirdly obsessed with it, and I'm super excited to get it back on the table. So if you want to hang out and chat some more, Thursday is going to be good for that. Same with tomorrow for Skytear, but Miller CCG definitely in a class of its own. Let's see. Swag saying, what class do you want to have in Monarch? I assume we'll get cards for all the classes. Or are you talking about new classes? All the new classes I've heard, Bard, Illusionist, that kind of stuff, sound amazing. Wade saying, I enjoyed the stream. Makes me want to build decks until I can play. In the summer, maybe, hopefully, crossing my fingers. Carl asking, any X-Wing on deck for a Throwback Thursday? It is on the short list. I have my stuff. It's harder to capture on a table, on our setup specifically. It's a bigger table, and you have to stand most of the time. It's interesting. This is an X-Wing mat that's actually on the table right now. But as you can see, when we're in any shot, like you can barely see, you can't even see half of the mat that's happening. Z Big saying, any word on if Monarch pre-orders will be back in stock? We will probably have more spots opening for a subscription. Sign up for the wait list. Those are going to melt whenever we put them back in, so just be ready. We'll try to be mindful of the time of day we're putting those in. Also, check out our texting platform. You can text us, and you can respond and say Flesh and Blood, and you'll get specific text messages from me and Steven about Flesh and Blood. But that is where we will, that and our Discord channel are where you'll probably get a little bit of an advance notice on what's going on. But that'll hit the wait list. Literally will start being emailed as soon as that goes in stock. So that's always the best way, whether it's unlimited products or subscriptions. Sam was saying, I'm so pumped for the mechanics to come with Necromancer. Yeah, I'm just curious to see them continue exploring and building on this game. Because the way James said on the podcast, Monarch is kind of the full game realized as they had designed it for 7 years. So I'm excited about it. Z-Big asking for a link to our Discord. Yeah, I'll hook you up with that. 1 second. It's also linked in the footer of our website, but I'm going to go ahead and link it in chat. But if you're watching this later and the chat has been cut off of this video, just go to the footer of the website, and there's going to be a Discord link if you want in. Ryan Rober saying, I'm all about the Alchemist. Yeah, these classes sound awesome. Jonathan in the background nodding his head. All right, hey, this was wonderful. You guys were great in chat, super helpful. Lots of advice. You convinced me on some cards. You de-convinced me on some other cards. I should be playing this deck against Steven next week, crossing my fingers that the Towering Titan can deliver. If not, we'll tweak it and try it again until it works. We, over the next 3 or 4 months, going to be doing a lot of constructed Flesh and Blood on Tuesday. So we're going to learn a lot. I'm excited to see what we're saying about our decks in 3 or 4 months about the time Monarch's coming out. And then, of course, Monarch's going to change the entire game if James isn't lying to us. So excited for that. Stay tuned. Amazing having you. Appreciate all the support we've received through subscriptions and booster box purchases and singles and all our content members. We couldn't do any of this without you. So cheers to all of you. Stay safe out there, and I'll catch you tomorrow for some Sky.